Oh yeah, epic loading screen music for you all here on the show. Hey. Just trying to figure out some technical stuff here. Steven and I are trying to do this video thing through Facebook Messenger, and I wasn't getting any sound, he wasn't getting any video. It's just fakakta right now, so we're trying to work this out, so hang tight. Tom, hello, welcome everyone in the chat. John, Lawrence, Captain Moist, the other Lawrence, Based Byzantine, Joachim, John, Cosmos, Thomas. Hello everyone, welcome to the show. We as soon as we get this figured out, we're making this happen. This is going to be fantastic. It's just, indeed he is risen. Christ is risen, everyone. All right, so let's do this. Hey, what's up, folks? It's your boy, Orthodox Review, the most uneducated educational program here on the internet. Today, I am your host, the guy with 1.5 thumbs. Having some troubles getting Steve's video to work correctly in the OBS. So we're working through some stuff here, kids. We're working through some stuff. For those of you that don't already know, this is more Adrian von Ziegler stuff. This is some Slavic style music that he composed, and I figured it's a good way to start the show. At any rate, gosh, this better work. This had better freaking work. Otherwise, I'm going to be so pissed. So let's hope we can get this figured out. I have it on good authority that Steve is trying to get his computer up and running, and top of my head, yeah, it's because I got this wicked cool hat on to keep the glare down from the bald spot. Okay, so all right. Well, anyway, so we're gonna get Steve on. We're gonna talk all things Old Orthodox. It's gonna be rad. I'm finally gonna get a chance to ask him some hard-hitting questions about Old Rite Orthodoxy that I've been wanting to kind of get on his case about for a little while. Not on this case, but stuff concerning the history of the Lestovka. We're gonna go over some Znameny chant stuff, actual practice in and out of the church as far as prayer and worship goes. Everything's gonna be fine. Everything is gonna be just peachy. But we are gonna have to kill the music though, so I can concentrate. Joakim, you're in North Carolina? I did not know that. But anyway, so how's everyone doing? How's everyone doing while we're Yes, press X to exorcise the demons from the tech setup. So the backstory on this goes, Stephen actually had to travel to New York City for some stuff. So he's not even using his normal equipment from home. So we're hoping to get this sorted out sooner rather than later. That's not the button I meant to push. This is going to screw the whole thing up. Estúpido computero. So let's today, Apostle and Evangelist John the Theologian on the old calendar, and let's face it, the old calendar is the proper calendar. But Lawrence is making some tea. I will also be making some tea eventually. I'm out of coffee, folks. I'm out of coffee. It's a terrible state of affairs. Not quite. I'm in South Carolina. Oh, NC New Calendar. Gotcha. All right. Gotcha. Don't want anyone to be too close. Well, to kill some time here, I will let you know I had lunch with my priest today, Father Andrew. 2 hours of lunch. We talked about a whole bunch of stuff. None of it I can really remember. No, we talked about extending the services now that our parish has gotten bigger. We talked a little bit about movies. The guy's never seen Beckett, so I turned him on to that. He surprisingly enough, well, maybe not surprisingly. See, the Old Rite is not like this well-known thing, and he didn't even know that there was Old Rite parishes that were in communion with Moscow or anything. So I'm hoping I've opened this this whole new world of old believer stuff to him. But man, I'm. Let's see if we can get this to work. Maybe honestly, he's probably in the bathroom at this point. So, all right, I'm sorry, just bear with us. I should have known this was going to happen. Because I tried to get, oh wait, is it that? No, it's not. I think it's, what are my alt keys on this? Oh, it's alt 1. There we go. So we've got that. Okay, man, this bites. Let's see, what cam, main cam. Okay, so all the cameras are working. All the audio is working. Yeah, that wasn't any good. That worked poorly. Old Rite Orthodoxy or an old calendar like Russian yeah, we're gonna be answering all those questions. God willing. God willing. Yeah, okay. I was really hoping he would hold your questions for Steven. Because we're gonna get into all this. Well, Sarah, just keep praying. Welcome, by the way. Steve A! What's up? Bow. What's up? Oh, man. Sergeant Nicholas II brought about recognition and full restoration of Old Rite with the rest of the church in 1905, if all recall right. No, you recall incorrectly, unfortunately, John. And that is one of the things we're going to be getting into. Don't worry about us, Raph. We can entertain ourselves till you're ready. I know you can. I just... I'm just so insanely excited to have our first proper guest on this show, and I am just so unprofessional. Yeah, let's stay hopeful. I don't know about what. I'm okay. I'm okay. The depression is real, but I'm trying to work through it here. Boy. Okay, so, it's been about 15 minutes. I'm calling him back. Let's see if this works. Something, try restarting Chrome on my computer. I ain't restarting jack squat. Something went wrong. Ugh. Hello. Hello, Keith. Hello, Arba. Ronry. I shall check my notes again about that. As far as I know, there are still a great number of Old Rite communities that have not reestablished communion. And we're going to get into that. Which is one of the beautiful things about hopefully having my boy on the show, because he's, for lack of a better term, kind of an expert on this sort of thing. That's one of the reasons why I want to have him on. Boy, let's see. What is going on here? Come on. Let's see here. Do. Let me try this. My sincere apologies, everybody. All right, he's back online. I'm gonna wait for him to call me. Hold on a second here. All right, got a message from him. Word. Let's try it now. Okay, can you hear me? I cannot hear you. This is lame. Why? Alright. You know what? This is really starting to tick me off now. Why don't we try the... Hold on a second. Scheisse. Alright, see, everyone can see you, but we can't hear you, and you probably can't hear me. Oi, this is... Alright. That's the international sign for hold tight. I think it might have to do with my OBS and all the BS that comes with an OBS. Let's see here. I wonder if there's maybe a setting in here that... Ooh, device settings. Camera, yeah. Microphone, Yeti, right. Audio output. Oh, here we go. Okay, Steven?
What?
I can hear you now!
Hold on, I'm trying to figure out how to change my camera. It's stuck on my work camera for work, and I need it to be on my face. So
right on. Check this out.
I might just have to unplug this one.
Okay, so now I think I finally figured out how to get my ugly mug on camera. Okay, I think...
I froze.
No, you're good. You're good.
Oh, you can see me?
No, your video is paused, actually.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I'm trying to do at this point is... Listen, bird, you pipe down back there.
I hate that bird.
I'm trying to get... Okay, now you can probably see me, hopefully.
I can see you.
Yay! Huzzah! All right.
Get you on this
This is fantastic. Wow, technology, baby. Technology.
Where's the settings for this blasted thing?
Are you using the desktop? Oh, there you go. Now I can see you. I can see that awesome built to spill poster and your. That's hey. Built to spill. Oh yeah, EVH back there. Look at him go. All right. So hey, there you are.
Well, that's not the one I want to use, but I mean, if it's gonna work.
Any port in a storm, my guy. Well, here we are, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, our very first special guest to the show here on Orthodox Review. This is Stephen Maynard, dear friend of mine from Erie, Pennsylvania, and a wellspring of knowledge, all things old believer, as he is in fact that based. So, welcome to the show, buddy.
I did my makeup for the other angle.
No worries. You know what's weird is like the only audio that this thing is picking up is the speaker audio, but that's okay, cause whatever, man.
What speaker audio?
The speaker on my computer. Like I was hoping that I could integrate your audio into the chat, but I mean everyone can hear you. It's fine, but it's just you know I haven't worked out all the kinks in this crap yet. Let me. Sorry, I gotta.
Well, that's why I wanted to get with you earlier, because I was like, I've never done this before. So
neither have I. Well, you know what?
I looked into it last night on YouTube,
Uh-huh.
and then I clicked the go live thing to see how it all works, and then it was like, well, now you got to wait 24 hours, and then you can try it again because they have to verify you or something. Make sure you're not a murderer.
Listen, what I do in my spare time is none of their dang business. You know what?
That's right. Eddie Van Halen, he's an old believer.
Yeah, wouldn't that be cool? That would have been awesome.
That would be cool.
Well, I mean, one can only hope we'll get an old believer. Honestly, I was talking to my priest earlier today, who is blissfully ignorant of a lot of nonsense out there, and we were talking about Orthodox celebrities, and he was like, "Yeah, whatever happened to that football player?" And I was like, "What, Troy Polamalu?" And I was like, "Yeah, he retired from football, and now he lives out in the desert with his family, and they go to church, and that's it." And one thing I've noticed is, like, celebrities who take their orthodoxy seriously cease to be celebrities and just kind of disappear.
Well, there's an old believer celebrity.
Oh, there is? Do tell.
Yeah, Blitnikoff, who played for the Raiders.
No kidding.
Yeah, he's from Erie. He's from my church.
No kidding. Well, there you go, man.
I can't remember his first name. I know he was big in, like, the 80s or something like that.
Fair enough.
Brad Blitnikoff or something.
With a name like that.
Named their football field after him and stuff. And then every year when we have the Troika Festival, the church festival, the one priest gets an autographed Raiders helmet from him and stuff, and we raffle it off.
That's awesome.
So
yeah.
There's at least one out there.
I wish I knew how to move this around.
Can you guys still hear him? Oh, you know what? Hold on. Check it out. I think I figured out the audio thing with your input. Go ahead and say something. I want to see something.
Hello.
Oh, yes. Right on. People can now hear you in high definition. So that's fantastic.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah. High
As
definition.
long as they don't see me in high definition.
Honestly, the picture quality ain't so bad. Not going to lie. Look, I've actually got you up on like a TV screen right here. So...
I'm going to show my monitor over to the left.
Yeah, I've got like the laptop here and the TV here and then the camera here. So it's anyway. Now that we got some things squared away. No, can't hear. Yeah, you can, John. Shut up. That's right. I got people in the chat hollering. "Hey." There's like about a 30-second latency between what we're doing and what the chat hears and everything. So we got.
Okay.
So but luckily you don't have to watch them. So yeah, I know there's an echo because you know what? Shut up, people. This is low rent, uneducated. Remember? Anyway, so first and foremost, third edition of Ye Old Prayer Book, Mr. Chonker.
Call it
that. First edition. Yeah, I'm still, I'm still waiting on you to go into the post office, man.
I'm eventually going to go there. Eventually.
Yeah, there's that second edition I'm salivating over. Before I left for the monastery, I gave mine to my friend because I was like, I'm going to be a monk now, and there's one at the library there, and then we all see the sad end to that story. So past like 4 years, I've been on the hunt for...
That's not a sad end, though. That's God works in mysterious ways. It's going to be a blessing in one way or another.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I like, self-deprecation.
You got to experience stuff other people don't normally get to experience.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, I wouldn't trade it for the world. I mean, that was probably like the greatest 5.5 months of my life.
There's a good amount of church right there. Almost as much as my church would have. We get the seminarians every year from Jordanville.
Right.
And they come and visit the Old Rite Parish. And they all tucker out. They all come in and they're all standing up front. And then, like, before any of the Saturday night services are over, they're all starting to trickle out the back door and stuff.
So
and the next day they're like, that is long. What the heck? And I'm like, yeah, it's long.
Well, how long does a vigil service for you guys last?
Well, a vigil service is about 4 hours.
Okay.
For before liturgy and stuff. But we don't, everyone seems to think that we celebrate vigils every weekend, but we don't. We only do vigils before feast days.
Okay.
But our usual Saturday night is, and we do it slightly out of order. We'll do comp line because comp line is short and nobody ever comes for comp line.
Right.
So we'll do comp line, vespers, and then matins. And matins is about 3.5 hours. Vespers is about 45 minutes. And then comp line is, I don't know, 20 minutes, 20 minutes or whatever. So we do it in that little order, and we do it all in one big show.
Yes.
Because that way, because if you leave to go home, no one's coming back.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we do that on Saturday night. And then on Sunday morning, we'll do midnight service at about 7:30 a.m. And then we'll start hours at 8:15. And then liturgy starts, just rolls right into liturgy.
Yeah.
And then you're all said and done with services around 10:30, 10:40-ish. And then we break for coffee hour, and then we usually go to Sunday school and stuff.
Oh, right on. So,
Yep.
So wait, you're starting at 7 in the morning, so 3.5 hours. That's not too bad. That's not because I know the monastic services. The vigil was about the same, about 4.5 hours, and then in the morning, if liturgy in the morning, it started like the basic, like the standard Russian style where it's just like 3rd, 6th, and then liturgy. And then, but there's usually, well, of course, there after the liturgy, there's the Molieven to St. Pantaleon, and then the service moves to the trapeza, and pretty much concludes with the meal there. So I would say anyone who can survive monastic services can probably hold their own in an Old Believer church.
They more than likely probably can, or at least they should be able to. In fact, everybody should be able to, the whole entire world, because one day when you die, you're going to go to heaven, and all you do is stand all day and praise God for eternity. So,
and
you might as well practice now.
Right? And I always go back to that Bad Religion song, even though they're terrible and they're atheists and they hate God. There is that one line, eternity, my friend, is a long effing time. And and it's like, well, yeah, it is.
Anyway, it is a long time. I don't think they hate God. I just think they don't know God. So
yeah, it's...
You can't really hate what you don't know.
Exactly. I could never quite wrap my head around that mindset.
But I do enjoy Strange Fiction. That was a great record.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, they consistently put out great. Well, I don't know. Their last record was kind of like Boomer Waffen, sort of.
Anybody associated with the Old Rite is very thorough on their punk rock and their 80s thrash metal. So.
Take notes, kids. Old Believers love the punk rock. Well, as well they should. So go out, buy yourself a Suicidal Tendencies record. The early stuff is great. The later stuff is great. It's all good. Hey, look at that! Oh wow!
I got Rocky George's autograph tattooed on my arm.
Right on. That is so cool.
I'm not going to heaven.
Listen, I mean, I got the Christogram on my knuckles, and apparently other people have started doing this as well. I like started a trend or something.
I think tattoos are an interesting thing. I can officially say I've been the first person to serve in the altar with tattoos.
Right on.
And it was a rough thing for the one priest because he was kind of like.
I heard a very compelling argument from someone who all their tattoos are Orthodox in nature, and they said something along the lines of, if we decorate the church with the holy icons and our body is a temple of God, then why not decorate our body with the holy icons? And I'm like, all right, okay, I guess I can see that.
Oh yeah, I can see that. It's one of those arguments where I don't think there's ever going to be a winner. You're only going to find out at the very end of things. But by today's society, even the old ladies at church aren't fazed by anything anymore. It's like okay. I remember the one priest, Father Theodore. We're very lucky to have him. He's a world-renowned iconographer and stuff. And I remember when I was in my 20s, I got a tattoo of a. Oh.
It's there somewhere. Oh, nice. There you go.
From in the altar behind where the bishop sits and stuff.
Right on.
I remember I'd hang out with him. He had a little studio on the east side in his dad's apartment building. We would paint icons and stuff all day. And we'd sit over there and eat ice cream and go get Greek burgers from the Greek shop. And when I say Greek burgers, I'm not talking feta cheese and all that stuff. In this region of the country, a Greek burger is like this really thin, crappy beef patty with what some people might think is chili sauce smeared all over it with onions on it.
Nice.
It'll kill you. It'll give you a heart attack if you eat too many of them. But all the people that own these restaurants in the Cleveland, Erie, Buffalo area, they're all Greek people. So
right.
They're Greek burgers, But we'd sit there and eat Greek burgers and ice cream and stuff while he would paint icons. And he would always go, oh, Stephen, why'd you do that to your arm? Oh, he'd be like, let me see it. And then he would start painting it, like coloring it in like it was paint by number.
That's so cool.
And I was like, do you hate this or do you enjoy this? Because every time you see it, you want to color it in.
Changing hearts and minds one tattoo at a time.
That's right.
Speaking of dear Father Theodore and his icons, I actually have a reproduction of one of his icons of the Nativity right here, right above where I'm working.
Oh, yeah.
So there it is. Oh, sorry. Yeah. And, got this at my church bookstore. They're like, oh, that's great. It's like, Damascene Gallery does a bunch of his icons.
The Holy Trinity does, too.
Yes. So
they put out a bunch of good stuff.
But, so...
Go ahead. I was very lucky. I got him to, it's downstairs on my icon corner. But I was lucky, one of his first churches that he was ever rector at, in the center of the candelabra, he had a little circle one of the Mother of God with Jesus like in the middle of her and stuff. And then that church closed up, and then that icon ended up floating around the altar at our church the one time, and I was looking at it and touching it and being like, what are you doing with this? What are you doing with this? And then the one day he came over to bless my house for theophany, he brought that with him and he gave it to me.
Oh, that's sweet.
I was really, it's a very, very special icon for me.
That's fantastic.
And it's the only one I actually have from him that he painted. I have some other things from him that are like started and unfinished. Like I have a weird collection of Orthodox stuff.
Nice.
Punk rock stuff and Orthodox stuff. I'm like the curator of things. Like I have this giant thing of the Transfiguration all taped together that he used for a pattern for a fresco in a church. And I have that, and then I have like one of the first little icons where he was learning to paint icons, where he was practicing the lines and all that stuff and everything.
Oh, Brad.
But all these years that I've known him, because like I've been friends with his oldest son Joseph since we were like 12, through skateboarding and stuff. But all these years I've known him, I've never got him to paint anything for me, and it goes down to that. I think that clause where when you're friends with somebody, you're always kind of last on their list for stuff.
Yeah.
Like with my buddy who's my mechanic, he's like, you need a new wheel bearing. I'm like, when are we going to do that? He goes, oh, I don't know, I'll call you. And you're like, okay.
Sure, I'll just wait on that.
Hard on me. But I've also been very lucky to like help him paint a lot of stuff. Like when he was in Cleveland, me and his son John and Teddy would always like travel to Cleveland and help him paint like this OCA church and a couple other churches, and he painted the Coptic church there and stuff.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He's really great in the Coptic circle too. He's got a great Coptic style.
Wow.
And the Coptic church in Cleveland hired him to do all their frescoes, and then there's a Coptic guy who lives in Toledo who like hired him to come and paint like a fresco in the entranceway of his house.
Wow.
Which he thought was very weird, but he took the job.
Yeah, and we talk about the Copts quite a bit on the show, only because the one thing that I've noticed about them is like their faithful are faithful. Like they're really hardcore about their faith, which is refreshing. What?
I was just thinking about how they are faithful and stuff. But I was just thinking about the first time I met the Coptic priest. It's commonplace to walk up and ask for a blessing. You put your hands in front of you and say, bless me, Father. And then they do the thing and you kiss their hand. And I went up and did that, and he looks at me and he goes, "I know what to do here." I was like, "What?" He's like, "Father Theodore showed me how to do this." And I was like, "Oh," and he goes, "We don't really do that."
Oh, wow.
Goes, but I know how to do that.
That's awesome.
Oh, it was very entertaining. But they're very, very faithful people. And they usually have really large parishes and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Too,
Oh yeah, I've talked with people from like Saint Shenouda Press and a few just like randoms over the past like couple years, and they're just fantastic people, and they just love sharing the gospel, and like even like their youth programs are out of sight. I follow a bunch of their YouTube stuff for the Archdiocese locally, and oh hey,
that's him giving me that icon right there.
Oh, right on. Fantastic. I love that you have like the Slavic looking skateboard deck in there too. That's fantastic.
Oh yeah. And then I got this little drawing right here behind him that his son Joe did.
Oh, cool.
He always hated it because he said, "I drew this instead of masturbating." And that's what it says. It's written on there right next to it.
That's awesome.
Father Theodore, he's just like, "Oh, Lord, have mercy."
Well, honesty is a good thing.
He's like, "Oh, Stephen."
So
it used to be closer to the icon shelf, and then he was like, "Put it a little further away."
Yeah, make some space.
That's right.
So now you were raised in the church, right?
No,
really?
I wasn't. That's the first time I visited that church. I was about 14.
Okay.
About 14 years old or so. I was actually raised very Roman Catholic as a child.
Okay.
I grew up with my grandparents and everything. 1 second here.
Yeah.
I just wanted to bring this one up because there's when we didn't know what to do with that icon, it was set right there on the candelabra right there and everything. And there behind it right here, if you can see my mouse pointing.
Yes.
That's what my tattoo is of, that right there.
Right, the Christ, the great high priest.
Yep.
Brilliant.
So, I was raised very Roman Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
I was an altar boy. I wanted to be a priest the whole 9 yards when I was a little kid and stuff. Yep. And then, I was friends with Joe, whose dad was Father Theodore and stuff, Joseph Jervis, who was also a really great artist in another facet. If you ever watched the cartoon Super Jail on Comedy Network or Adult Swim.
It was on Adult Swim, yeah.
Him and his friend drew that and created that.
Get out of here.
He did some work on Metalocalypse and a couple other shows and stuff.
Oh, wow.
So the family's very talented art-wise.
Yeah.
But we would go over to his house with our skateboards and we'd knock on the door and his dad would be like, "Joseph, your heathen friends are here." He'd make us wait outside for him and stuff.
Wow.
But then when I was a little bit older, I was probably about 18 or 19, and I had fallen out of going to church and stuff. And I was dating a girl that was a Jehovah's Witness at the time. Her name was Sharon, and she was a lot of fun. She was in the skateboards and stuff like that. And in between hanging out and making out, she'd want to talk about religion and stuff like that. And I was like, "Man, all right, if we're going to do this, then I get to pick what we talk about." We're going to talk about the book of Revelation. And we started talking about the book of Revelation. I started reading it, and I was like, "Wow, man, this is heavy." I was like, if any of this is true, I should probably get myself to church because I got a lot of free time. So then I started doing a search on all the different religions and faiths and stuff, all the Christian ones. I looked into Judaism, not seriously considering Judaism because I always thought Christ was the savior and stuff, but I started with really getting to know Judaism and stuff,
mm-hmm.
and then looking at all the different Christian sects and things and whatnot. And then, I'm a big history buff, and I was like, well, historically, Orthodoxy is the next continuation from Judaism, obviously, and all these other Christian sects that come after the fact,
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm going to look into the Orthodox Church. And the only Orthodox churches we have here in Erie is the Church of the Nativity, which I had visited as a kid. I've been there for Christmas services, and went there for Easter a couple times, with Joe and stuff, and everybody else. His one sister I'm friends with too and stuff. So I went in, and it was like the beginning of Great Lent. I went in there with a serious mindset, not like I'm here hanging out as like a friend or something. Like I'm here looking for something, I remember it was during Great Lent, and I was just like, I had no idea what the hell was going on. Everybody's chanting and stuff's going fast. Women are on this side, men are on this side. Everybody's wearing all black. I'm like, this is, I don't even know. And then, I started praying along with people and watching stuff. And then one guy comes walking up to me, and he goes, "Hi, I'm Joe." And I'm like, "Hey, I'm Steve." And he goes, Are you visiting from somewhere? And I said, "No, I'm from here in town." And he goes, "Are you Orthodox?" And I was like, No, I'm just looking. He goes, "Well, I'm going to ask you not to pray. Maybe just stand back here and observe and stuff." Because in the Old Rite parishes and stuff, they're very strict about gambling with your salvation.
Yes.
As they'll put it and stuff. It's not that someone's asking you out of being rude or wanting to keep it a secret from you, but nobody wants to gamble with your soul and stuff like that. Or you get into doing things that maybe you spiritually shouldn't be doing right now in your heart and stuff.
Yes.
So I was like, oh, okay, yeah, no problem. That's cool, So I hung out, and I came to all the services during Lent and everything. And at this time I was 20. So just about to turn 20. I turned 20 January of the following year. So 1990.
1997, about that?
99, 98, somewhere in there. So then, I was looking for real prayer and stuff at the time. And there's real prayer going on in an Old Rite church. There's prayer going on everywhere. I don't want anyone to think that I don't think other Orthodox churches are prayerful. But I mean, like, I had a friend come and visit one time from up in Canada and stuff, and she came and she visited, and she even said, she says, "I've never seen piety like that. I've never seen prayer like that before." She said, "It makes me feel like my church is doing it all." I was like, well, I'm sure you're not doing it wrong, So it really spoke to me in that prayer mindset and stuff. Because things I love to do is I love to pray. I do it. I could do it all day.
Yes.
I try. Sometimes I forget. So I ended up converting and joining that church, and it was really interesting because, as Father Clement said, he said, when you're born into, or at least reared in an Old Rite parish, nothing else will ever feel like home or like right to you. You know what I mean? And for the longest time, I never visited another church. That was the only church I ever went to, was that one right there. I had no idea. Like, I knew about the historical facets of the Old Rite and the New Rite and stuff, because we talk about that stuff. But I had no idea about liturgical differences and things like that. Like, I remember the very first time I went to another parish. I actually went to the cathedral in San Francisco for the first time. And I was like, well, I was like, what is this, an opera? Everybody thinks they've heard Zamini chant because the monks of the law put out those Zamini chant CDs and stuff, but that's not real Zamini chant. Zamini chant is very, very monotone. There's no highs and lows. It's boom. It's one tone. It's tone 2. It's tone 1. It's just that tone. It's that. The deacon doesn't come out and get louder and louder when he does the litany.
Yeah, the big cathedral style.
Like there's none of that. And I was like, wow, this is crazy, man. I was like, I don't even know what's happening here. And it was interesting because I felt more like I was like at an opera, like at a show. I was just so much to take in and stuff. And then, like, we went to communion, and there was a bishop. The one bishop was serving and stuff. And in the Old Rite, you get 3 spoonfuls of the Holy Mysteries.
Wow.
You get 3 spoonfuls, and you get to kiss the chalice, the rim of the chalice.
Yeah.
So I'm like in line, and I get up there, and I'm like, and take my one, and I'm standing there, and he's like, "You can go now." And I go, "Well, what about the other 2?" And he goes, "The other 2?" And I'm like, I was like, I don't know. Oh, man.
Yeah. See,
So
I didn't.
I got on the line and I went and got the Prospera and stuff, and then I went and stood back in my spot, and then he caught me after service, and he's like, where are you from? And I was like, Erie, Pennsylvania. And he goes, oh, okay. He goes, you get 3 spoonfuls, huh? And I was like, yeah. He goes, yeah. He goes, that's the only place that's gonna happen. It's like, okay, good to know.
Wow.
Because I was standing there like a ding dong, like, hello.
Yeah.
But then it's funny too, because visitors will come to visit our church and they'll get one and they'll turn to go away, and the priest will be like, no.
Hang on, you still got two courses to go.
Hang on, that's more to go. You know, so it was very interesting being reared in an Old Rite parish, and then and obviously I fell in love with it, and I still love it very much. And like I said earlier, I love to collect things and know things and understand things. So I mean, like, I have collections of writings from when I was 19, 20, 21 about all my thoughts, all the things I've been learning, all the comparisons and stuff. Really studying the Schism of 1666 and just getting, like you said, I'm very knowledgeable about this stuff.
Yeah.
And Father Pimmon I've worked on some projects with him, and even he has said, he said, I trust you to talk to people about the faith and stuff because you obviously know what you're talking about, you know what's going on. He's like, sometimes you have a very interesting way of presenting it.
For that youthful vigor.
Yeah.
So,
right?
So on the subject of the schism, and I know we've talked about this privately in the past, and you've really inspired me to do my homework on the Old Rite, and I've been a fan for years. But for those watching, a lot of people in the chat before you got on were saying, well, didn't they patch that up in the early 1900s, yada yada yada? And I was like, well, not really, but let's wait for Stephen because he could probably explain it a little better. Now we know that, of course, the Church of the Nativity is in communion with ROCOR. What is the state of the Old Believers in general when it comes to communion?
Well, we're the only American church, and for those that don't know, the Church of the Nativity was a priestless Old Believer church. You have a bunch of different sects of Old Believers, of Old Ritualists. And the term Old Believer is about to be retired. We're losing all the old, actual born and raised Old Believers and stuff.
Yeah.
We're now is probably more fitting to call most of them Old Ritualists.
Okay.
Stuff,
Right.
Like when I look at the old people in church that were actually still priestless Old Believers, they're Old Believers and stuff. And of course, like, I'm a very active member of the parish, so people are going to call me Old Believer and stuff like that, and that's fine. But like, if I were to have kids, they would definitely be like Old Ritualists.
Yeah.
Father Pimmon's grandchildren are like Old Ritualists. They're not really like that strict old staunch Old Believer lifestyle.
Yeah.
There used to be. But when we go back to the time of the Schism, you end up with 2 sects of Old Believers. You end up with the priestless and the priesthood Old Believers. And the priesthood Old Believers went with the Bella Canita hierarchy, where the priests were being murdered, the priests were dying off, everybody ran into seclusion somewhere in the world. And was what happened with a lot of the original priestless Old Believers is their priest was literally murdered and burned in front of their church.
Oof.
And they still continued to carry on the practices of the church without a priest.
Okay.
This is the end times. This is the end of the world. Our priest has been murdered. We need to pray until either God takes us or they come and they murder us as well. And then you have priesthood/priestless Old Believers that went off into the diaspora, and their priest died, and they couldn't get a new priest, so they just continued going along the lines of what can we do without the priest and all that stuff.
Right.
And then you have the priesthood Old Believers who they were like, well, our priests are getting old and they're dying. We need to do something about this. So they ended up getting a hold of a defrocked bishop from Greece, I believe it was Greece, to consecrate new priests for them. So he did. And so they ended up ordaining priests and everything. But then they fall into a complicated position because they didn't have enough bishops to consecrate bishops, but he consecrated bishops anyway, by itself, without having 2 other bishops with them. So that's the whole issue with the Bella Canizza hierarchy, is they have a whole bunch of bishops, but none of them can trace their lineage all the way back to Paul and all that stuff, because they only got, you could go back and all of a sudden you meet this one bishop, and he's you can't do that. That's against the rules. Jesus said
everything's got to be by the book.
I don't like figs, and you need 3 bishops. So that's where they run into issues, and then you get into like the Pomorzi Old Believers, which are like shore dwellers and stuff, and all these other various little sects and everything. And then you get into the ethnovari or endovari, however you want to say it. And some people like to say that the Church of the Nativity is an endovari, however you want to say it. I say ethnovari, parish. But that term is applicable to Old Believer, Old Rite churches that were allowed to exist during communism because they came to terms with the government so that they could exist. And that's where that originates from.
Okay.
So all those Old Believer churches in Russia and Moscow that are under the MP, and they've been there since the early 1900s and things like that, were due to who knows what kind of shady, backhanded, back alley agreements were struck up so that they could still exist,
right,
without being persecuted for what they were doing. So that's why Father Pittman will always be kind of staunch to say the Church of the Nativity is not ethnovari. We are old ritualists, we are old believers. We come from a priestless old believer background, and the church actually was founded over 100 years ago now. We had our 100-year anniversary 2 years ago.
Oh, right on.
And from when the original charter was drawn up. And it was made up of old believers that had moved down here and settled on the shores of Erie. For those that don't know, Erie, Pennsylvania is on the shores of Lake Erie. We have the only freshwater bay, I think, in the country. That's like a big bay. I'm saying something doesn't have a little bay somewhere, but like ships come in and stuff off the sort of St. Lawrence and stuff. And between Pittsburgh and Erie was a lot of steel and coal industry. So a lot of work on the docks in the steel industry. So the parish ended up being founded by people from the Erie and the Pittsburgh, Millville area around like 1890s, somewhere in there, where they would come to pray in a house and stuff, and then they ended up building a church. And if you look on YouTube, there's a history of the church video on there, which is really well put together. They put it together for the 100-year anniversary and stuff. And, it goes through the whole like early 1900s, where they were priestless old believers, doing the whole thing. And back then, a couple of the Lestovniks really did all the services at the time you were supposed to do them at.
Yeah.
Like, some of the old people tell you about how they woke up to go to matins at like 3 a.m.
Yeah.
And then went back home and then came back for liturgy at like 9 a.m. And like,
wow.
You came for Vespers, and then you went home, and then you came back for comp line, and like back and forth, because at the time everybody lived in the neighborhood around the church.
So it's really that village mentality, And
where the church is at, that's the Russian neighborhood,
Yes.
Like everybody's last name is something off, Orloff, Zakhoff. There's a joke in there. I'm going to leave that alone.
Yep. We'll just go with Evanoff.
As someone from Pittsburgh might say, Jagoff. So through the whole evolution of like being these pious, segregated people who didn't mingle with other people and stuff, and then the war hit, World War II, stuff like that, and guys were going off to war. People were becoming more Americanized and stuff, and that's where the whole old believerness really starts to die. It's like hit its peak, and now it's starting to decline on its way out. You have people that don't want to go to church on Saturday night. They want to go to the CYS club, and the CYS club is the club started by the church here in Erie. It's called the CYS club, which stands for Community of Young Strugglevitsa, Community of Young Old Believers. It's up on 38th Street. If you're a member of the church, you get a free life membership to the club.
Awesome.
Cheap beer.
Hey.
Sometimes you get in trouble at the Christmas party there,
You cause trouble now. No.
It was actually the bishop's fault.
It's always the bishop's fault.
So then the war effort comes into play and stuff, and people start to Americanize. People start to take wives that aren't from the church and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's still people. There's still people in the church that remember, like the one Zakoff, Marty Zakoff. His sister married a guy who was German, and he would come to church. He died. I never actually met him. He told me stories about how everyone was rude to him and stuff. But he'd come to church, and like the warden, I'm pretty sure New Rite parishes have a warden as well. It stands like in the back and tells you not to move, you're not supposed to move and all that stuff, and whatever you want to call it. So he would make this guy stand in this one spot, and he wasn't allowed to move from that spot and stuff. And everyone like wouldn't talk to him and everything. And,
wow.
like, real rude because he wasn't from the church and stuff.
Yeah.
So, but then, people broke through that, and they took wives and husbands that weren't originally Orthodox and stuff, and starts to break down and water down and everything, And then you enter the 70s, and there's like a revitalization in the parish and stuff, and you start to see a lot of kids, a lot of the baby boomers having babies and all that stuff and everything, and it really starts to take off again, and you start to see the family life center around the church a bit more than it used to in the 50s and the 60s, where the 50s and the 60s people started to kind of get away from it and stuff.
Yeah.
And then you enter into the 80s. In the 80s, and the whole time the church was priestless up until 1980s. In the 1980s, Father Pimen was asked to be the Lestovka, and he was a predominant litigator here in town. He was a lawyer and stuff. And he was doing very well and everything, but him and his brother, Father Mitrofan, and Father Mitrofan, if you guys pray for people, put Father Mitrofan on your list. He's Father Pimen's brother. He's the one deacon. He's got some health issues where he's just in pain all the time. He's never in church and stuff. And I go visit him, but he's the one who put together every single publication the church has like put out. He knows all this stuff like the back of his hand. You could stop at his house and have a service with him in his living room and everything, and it's great. He's a great guy and stuff. But like him and Father Pimen were both very active in the church and stuff, and they came to Father Pimen and asked him if he would be the Lestovka, and he went and he talked to his wife about it and everything, and because that's a big move, because if you're going to be the Lestovka, well, you're not going to be an attorney anymore. Yeah. So you're going to be the full-time rector of the parish and stuff. So he decided to do this, but on the terms that they were going to look into restoring priesthood, because obviously we're not living in we're always living in the end times, but we're not living in the moment of the end times. And if we are, we don't know it. So he said, if we're going to do this, we're going to look into restoring the priesthood and restoring communion, the focal point of the church. We've been a church here for so long, and we don't have that center point, the whole reason to do all this stuff. Yeah. So they had a couple of parish meetings about it, between parish council, and it started a real nasty split in the church, another schism, quite like the schism of 1666, but on East Front Street in Erie, PA in 1986.
The Great Schism of 1986.
And if you go around the corner from the Church of the Nativity, there is a priestless Old Believer church. Oh, wow. One block away. And they will scowl at you and spit. Really? Ooh. Oh, yeah. But it ended in a split in the church, where half the church went and said, no, we're not changing this. You're getting us in bed with the devil and stuff. We're not having it. And the other half was like, it divided families. One of the guys I love the most in church, Harry Evanoff, and his family, his dad and his mom go to the little church, and we call it the little church, and they go to this church, and they don't really see much of each other and stuff, And his dad is actually 101 years old, and he's actually the Lestovka of the little church. Oh, wow. And the little church is dying, because everyone's old there, and their kids, they've been unsuccessful getting their kids involved in the parish life, because there's not much of a parish life there. Yeah. They just pray and everything, where at least at our church we try to have dinners and lunches and games and stuff like that. But it caused a split where people actually broke into the church and stole icons and, took them over to the other church and everything. Because, most of the icons in the church are owned by families and stuff. They just have them in the church and everything. So they, broke in and stole the icons and everything, and then they, took out a big thing in the newspaper and slandered the church and all this stuff. It's pretty wild. But they made it. They made it through. And the half that went with priesthood, Father Pittman wasn't really sure where to go. Mm-hmm. So he did talk to, what was it, St. Vladimir? What's the seminary in Pennsylvania?
St. Tikhon's.
Yeah, St. Tikhon's. He went and talked to St. Tikhon's, and talked to them about it and stuff. But then, not to sound rude or anything, but felt like, well, that seems a little too watered down. They're eating fish during Lents and things like that. And, it doesn't really. We don't really fit into that mold. You know what I mean? So then, Vladika Daniel, who at the time was a priest, Father, I think before he became Daniel, it might have been Father Alexei or something like that. But he had done a lot of research and tried to do a lot of outreach to old believers. Mm-hmm. There's old believer community, priestless old believer communities in New Jersey, Detroit. There's some in Oregon that are not associated with the famous Old Believers of Oregon. Yeah. Which is another interesting story. And he even did some outreach with the guys in Oregon and stuff and everything, And then he had visited Erie a couple times, and then Father Pittman ended up talking to him, and we decided to go with Rocor, because Rocor was very open to the idea. Yeah. Now, back to what someone else might have said earlier about, didn't they fix that a while ago in the 1900s? So put the Erie story on pause for a minute. Let's talk about the whole greater scheme of the Old Believers. Mm-hmm. So in the 1900s, the turn of the century, the ethno-very stuff kind of came around with the state church of Russia and everything. Yeah. But both in the 1970s, both the state church and Rocor issued formal apologies to the Old Believers for the schism, pretty much saying this never should have happened to you. Yeah, we would welcome you back into the fold and stuff. But none of the parishes jumped on that. Huh. They're all like, no. So there was a couple of outreaches, and Vladika Daniel's outreach was part of that because he was alive and he was kind of involved in that whole, we need to apologize to these people and save these souls, because saving souls is more important than anything. So they ended up getting together and talking about it and everything. And another nice thing about an Old Rite parish, especially our Old Rite parish, is we're very big on everybody knowing how to do stuff. There's little kids at church that can run a whole service. They can grab the books, they can switch them around. Yeah. They can tell you which one it is, where the next song's coming from, and I'm talking 9-year-old kids and stuff. Nice. That are doing this more efficiently than some choir directors I've met in my life. Yeah. Everybody learns to chant Old Church Slavonic and read it from when they're very little and everything. Mm-hmm. Now the biggest problem with that is everybody learns how to read it, but nobody really knows what they're reading. Yeah. This teach you how to read it and how to recite it, but you're not really learning what the word actually. Yeah, you're not understanding the language. That. Because it's pretty funny because you can whip open a book and chant some stuff, and someone's like, "What'd you say?" I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. Let me look at the English translation.
Thank God for parallel text.
So now back to Vladika Daniel coming to the church and all that stuff. So Vladika Daniel comes and gets relations going and everything and whatnot, and then Father Theodore was actually rector of a Rocor parish on 5th Street here in Erie, probably about 7 or 10 blocks away from Church of the Nativity. Okay. And he got involved with helping Father Pittman figure it all out and everything and stuff. So then he got ordained, and I think it was 1985 or something, 1986, somewhere in there. Well, we always say 86 is the year, but it's actually a little bit before that. So he got ordained, and then on the Feast of the Dormition, proceeded to chrismate, I'm going to get all teary-eyed now, chrismate, I think 350 people, and all those people got to receive communion the next day for the first time ever in their whole lives.
Wow.
And it's one of those things where, like, when you talk about somebody being saintly, or like, you know, who do you know that could be a saint? You know, like, I think that guy could be a saint. I mean, like, that's a pretty big thing to, like, bring a whole community back into, like, a fold and chrismate and commune so many people, you know, and, like, and give them salvation and stuff like that, you know, because who knows what was happening to everybody when they died before that, you know?
Mm-hmm.
There's a big dispute about, like, you know, are old believers saved, you know, like these people that are out there in Detroit and stuff with no priest and everything. And, like, there was a time where you would say, yeah, they were, you know, they for sure they were, you know, but now it's like there's been so many opportunities handed, you know, so many doors opened and they're not taking it and stuff, where it's kind of like, well, I don't know where they're falling now. It's a tough one. But yeah, soon after that, Father Pittman had asked Father Theodore too if he would be interested, because the church was small and we just kind of combined the churches and stuff, where you had the first influx of, I don't want to say converts, but people that weren't born in that parish come to that parish and stuff. Mm-hmm. And he said, you know, you want to come and be our second rector and everything? And he said, yep, sure, that'd be great. So they did that, and then shortly after that, I can't remember his name now. He passed away so long ago. But a couple bishops from Jordanville came up and they ordained Liturgical Daniel to be the bishop of the Old Rite in Erie, Pennsylvania, and give us our own bishop and everything. And I wasn't obviously at that, but I've seen photos and stuff. And I've also seen Liturgical John, who we have now. I saw his ordination, and that was really nice and stuff. And so we had our first bishop and our first two priests and everything, and then we had Father Mitrophon, Father Pittman's brother, became the first deacon, along with Father Philip Popoff, whose son JJ is now Father Herothius, and he's our third priest.
Oh, nice.
And it was Father Philip who really, you know how you get church games so you can make church pass and stuff like that? We used to judge people in their censer swing. Because Father Philip was so smooth. He was like a pimp from like the second. He was like,
he had the whole circle thing done. Yeah.
Big circle, nice and smooth and everything.
Nice.
Like, then Father Pittman was like, smash, smash, smash.
That's so cool.
And then that gave way to the Produshnik Olympics. For those of you that don't know, in Old Rite Parish, you use a Produshnik, which is a prayer cloth. The Muslims, they stole it from us.
Yes. And a quick note to our audience. I know I've shown it on the show before. Stephen actually sent me one years ago that had not ever left the church, he says. And now it's in my prayer corner. I use it. It probably needs to run through the wash at this point.
I would see it floating around in your photographs on Instagram and whatnot. I'm like, oh, there it is. I'm like, in that icon and stuff. But because like, you know, the idea of the Produshnik prayer cloth was like, you use your hand to make the sign of the cross and bless yourself. So therefore, it's holy and it shouldn't touch the dirty ground. So you use that when you do your prostration, so you don't soil your hands, because it's just like soiling your Bible or whatever and stuff. Yeah. Same thing with Lestovkas and stuff. Like, I have a real nice one that has like crosses painted on it right here, and I don't really use it because whenever you do a prostration, it ends up getting on the ground and stuff, and the last thing you want to do is be tossing the cross around on the ground and stuff. You know? But then, like with the Produshnik, you get into these crazy games, like, and of course, old age hated this. You like flip it in the air and see if you can make it land as you go down and stuff. And then you do the switcheroos where you toss them in front of each other. So I toss mine in front of you, and you toss yours in front of me and stuff as we go down and see if we can make it work and everything. Oh yeah, there's always some way to pass the time in an Old Rite Parish, because there's a lot of time spent in that place, man.
Yeah. Well, you know, I mean, I should hope that people are inspired to spend time in church. I was actually talking to Father Andrew about this today. It's like, you know, people are hanging out at the church more, and I was like, we need to we need to foster that. I was like, let's build an atrium or something outside. Give people a place to hang out, because people, and especially in our parish, like we have so many young couples with kids, like it's really starting to boom. So it's like we need to encourage people to hang out more because they want to. It's just standing around in a parking lot's not cutting mustard. So
right. Well, that's where I think we're lucky because we built a community center in the 70s. So there's like a gymnasium in there, and there's a sauna, and there's like a banquet room and all that stuff in there. So like there's pretty ample time to like hang out and do some stuff around church and everything. And then it was real nice for a while because I was the maintenance guy for a couple of years, I guess we could say. Like the priest's wife would call me and say we need to set up tables and chairs, and I'd go down and do it and stuff. Yeah. Make sure like the trash was taken out like on Tuesday nights and everything. But having keys to the building was really nice because I would just go down there a lot and just sit, like go into the church and light up a couple lampadas and just sit there and relax and take it in and pray. Father Theodore's one son, John, and I, who is now a really aspiring iconographer himself, John Jarowitz, if anyone's looking for commissions and stuff, he's the guy to get a hold of because his dad doesn't really paint panels anymore because of his eyes, just sticks with the big stuff. Yeah. The frescoes and everything. But like John and I would go down there and we'd say our evening prayers and stuff, and then like sit on the steps of the church and everything. And some of the best summers were spent just bumming around the church property and stuff. Heck yeah. A lot of good times, a lot of fun. I mean, we're very lucky. It's a very beautiful building. It's actually the second church building. The first one burned down around 1986 as well. What a surprise! Somebody threw a piece of charcoal in a garbage can, and it ignited and burnt down the church. Oof. But surprisingly, none of the books were injured. Hey. And we old books, like, there's some books in there from the 1600s and stuff. Yeah. From, Patriarch Job or whatever, who was like there right before the split in the 1660s and stuff. And surprisingly, none of the books were injured. None of the iconostas was hurt. None of the icons caught on fire. Just the roof and the front end. But it was enough that the building was a total loss and stuff. Yeah. So then they rebuilt on the same spot. And surprisingly, the new church was consecrated on the Feast of the Dormition. It's funny because it's the Church of the Nativity, but everything significant for the church has happened on the Feast of the Dormition. Well, it's like, I got nothing for that. That's just cool. It should almost be like it's the Church of the Nativity, the Dormition.
The Dormition of the Nativity. That's beautiful, though. I mean, because I knew a little bit about the parish and how it existed. I didn't know that there was so much behind it as far as getting priests in there. And I recall you talking about that little schism years ago, but it completely slipped my mind.
It's just so funny because you get like, and it's one of the things that's really turned me off of internet orthodoxy. Is the whole old believer, old ritualist, new ritualist stuff. There's that one priest, I won't mention his name, but he's led a couple groups. They're terrible groups, Yeah. And like somebody wrote some stuff about like the schism and stuff in there, and I tried to chime in, and like I remember these two guys like trying to gang up on me, and they were like, "Well, you're going to hell anyway because you're an old believer and blah 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 blah."
Oh my goodness.
And I'm just like, dude, you guys are stupid. Like seriously, man. Trying to be like, well, you guys are using practices you're not supposed to be using and stuff like that. It's just like, yeah, all right. And it's gotten nasty a few times to the point where I was like, you know what, this is stupid. I ain't doing this anymore. Oh yeah, no, there are some
hyperdocs out there on the internets that will just ruin your day for the sake of it. What night was it? Wasn't the last stream we did? Maybe it was the stream before. Like this fellow showed up in the chat and knew all sorts of personal information about stuff and just like would not stop telling people you're sinners, you're going to hell, blah 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 blah. And I'm like, well, it's okay. I can think of two priests that you probably talk to on a regular basis that try to do into this. So, which is it's terrible. It's sad and. It's very sad. It's very disheartening and stuff, because like the internet is such a great place to like
learn about things and
Yeah.
share things and spread things, and then you have someone ruin it for you,
Mm-hmm.
Like the whole reason the Orthodox hipster coffee hour group existed,
Yeah.
For those that are familiar with that group, that was actually started by me and you and Jamie Bennett and a couple other people
and Jody, yeah,
and Judy to get away from those kind of groups, And it's funny because I'll see someone in a comment and be like, "Well, that Orthodox hipster coffee hour is a bunch of people just doing and saying whatever and blah blah blah." And it's like, yeah, because it's supposed to be fun and you're supposed to be able to be yourself and you're supposed to be able to share things without somebody trying to crack a cannon at you.
Yes. and then much like every other group, you either die a martyr or you grow big enough and old enough to be a villain. And
right.
I mean, it got to the point where I was exiled from the group for a while.
Yeah. I remember there's that weird little moment in time.
Where I was like, I was getting into identity stuff, and I was. Granted, I was in a dark place. I was going through some dark stuff, but but I mean,
and
go ahead.
And that's the thing that sucks is like when that was like going on, there was like people that were like, well, we need to reach out and love him and stuff, and then there's other people that were just kind of like, well, we'll just let him figure that out on his own, but we don't want to make the group look bad, and it's kind of like, who cares what the group looks like,
It's a Facebook group. It's not even reality.
Yeah, it's not like it's a theological institution or anything like that. But yeah, the whole realm of internet orthodoxy and stuff, it really gets to be blah. Like it's funny too because like John Jarowitz, he now lives in Chicago with his wife. And they go to church there, and their priest, who's a super awesome guy, I just saw he just moved on to another parish and stuff, which is kind of a bummer because he was pretty rad and stuff. But I remember one day I saw John, I think I went to Chicago for his wedding, and he's like, so I know some people that know you from the internet. And I was like, oh, yeah? And I go, what did they say about me? He goes, they said that you are very, very staunch, strict, and by the book, and you're not very nice to people. And I was like,
where are they getting that from?
I was like, what? and like I'm a funny, goofy guy.
Yeah.
But I also have respect for how things should be and stuff.
Yes.
And how to go about them properly and everything. So I mean, I guess maybe sometimes yes, I could, depending on the question.
Yeah.
Come off rather staunch and like brimstone and fire because like I don't know, there's things that you don't play with. Just like somebody the other day was posting a picture of the mystical moment in time when the consecration of the holy gifts happened and all that stuff. And to this day, I even commented on it, I'm like, that's a very beautiful moment. And I was like, and I feel like the last thing you should be doing is taking a picture of that.
Yep.
Like you should be there in awe of that moment.
Yes.
And prayer, or both. But taking a photo, no. Like up until a couple years ago, like I was very hesitant to even take a picture in church.
Yeah.
Like, and when I was younger, like in my 20s and stuff, you didn't even think about taking a photo in church. If someone saw you pull out a camera or your phone or something, you'd be like, that's there. Like, what are you doing? You know?
Well, and I know even in our parish, that's not something that happens a lot. Like,
right.
Like if there's something like a baptism or chrismation or an ordination or something, people are going to take photos. But when the gifts are being distributed, no one's touching a cell phone. Nobody.
Yeah.
And
no, and like I've taken some pictures in church too, but like they're either like when the service is not actually happening or it's like an appropriate time to sneak one in, you know what I mean? But like when we had our 100-year anniversary, like Brocor's like head photographer lady was like here, and she was just up everywhere taking pictures to the point like people were just like, "Come on, lady, get out of my way!" Like, what are you doing? How many times can you take a picture of those royal doors?
Yeah, right. Well, I'm trying to get the right shot. It's like, how about just standing still and enjoying the service? I don't know. So we got some history out of the way, and thank you so much for clarifying all that for everyone. I haven't even looked at the chat since you started talking because I'm just captivated. I don't, you know what? They're fine. They're fine. They're doing okay.
Is there people watching this?
We got 28 viewers right now.
Oh, that's cool.
And to those of you that have donated to the stream, I haven't even checked that. Thank you very much. I look forward to being able to pay rent. So you showed your Lestovka. What did you call it again?
Lestovka.
Oh, okay.
Lestovka.
Yes,
Lestovka,
that was the other one. So people are always asking me, because I did a short episode on the Lestovka and kind of just read the instructions out of the prayer book on that one. There it is, the whole getup. So so how like, of course, a lot of people, they'll buy them off like websites online or whatever, and they just kind of use them as they would a prayer rope. But I know in actual practice, you guys kind of, it's hanging from the left arm of that shirt. Y'all actually do that in church, right?
Yes and no. It's a thing that's kind of like, there's not a lot of people that use them like they used to. Like, yeah. In some of these old pictures that I have, like everybody's got one and stuff. But they have their significant use in the liturgy and the other services as well. But yeah, it hangs off your left arm, because when you're praying, you want to count with your left hand so you can still make the sign of the cross with your right hand and whatnot. But it comes in handy in church because the first rung is 12, which represents the 12 apostles. But most of the times that you say "Lord have mercy," it's 12. You got 12 of them.
Yes.
So you can use it to count to 12. Lord have mercies. And then during Litzia, I don't know how you guys do Litzia, or if you even do Litzia. Litzia is the part at the end of Vespers where everybody from the altar and the choirs goes to the back of the church. Yes. And they sing in the back. And that is actually pays tribute to old times and stuff, because back in the way back, like if you were like in trouble, like you did something and where you went to confession and stuff, the priest might tell you to stand in the back of the church. Yeah. And not come to church for a little while and stuff. But they didn't want you to feel excluded from the service. So the priest and everybody would go back there and stand with you in the very back and sing. And there's a thing where there's 50 Lord of Mercies, there's 40 Lord of Mercies, and then 16 Lord of Mercies during Litzia and stuff. And you can use this to count them all. Right. So you know exactly where you're at and everything and stuff. So it's got some practice with that as well. And then, of course, everybody's always wondering what all the things mean. So you have 3 big steps here, because some people call it a ladder as well. The Americanized version would be like it's a ladder. Yeah. So you have 6 steps, 6 big ones here, and then you have 3 big ones like here and here and here. And those represent the 9 levels of angels that there are. And then you have, 33? How old was our Lord when he died? 33? You got 33 rungs to represent the 33 years that our Lord was alive. And then, I'm not going to count them, but however many weeks the Virgin Mary was pregnant with our Lord, is the other stretch of them. And then you have a stretch of 16 for the 16 Old Testament prophets. Yes. And then the leaves are dedicated to the gospel writers. And you can see that they actually have the gospel writers' names on it in pretty little beads and stuff. But you don't all, they can be different. I have one, like I said, I have one with crosses on it, I have one with flowers on it, I have ones that are blank right there and stuff. But that's pretty much the gist of it. And then this little space right here represents the space between heaven and earth right there. Now, a quick question about the leaves, because in the description in the prayer book, it talks about there being 4 separate leaves and movable pieces in them. Yes. I would imagine that's an older style. It is an older style, and there is 4. It is technically 4 leaves because it's 1 leaf sewn to the next. Yes. So it looks like 2, but there's 2 sides. So it is actually 4 leaves. And inside is 7 movable pieces that represent the sacraments of the church. There's I've seen a couple. It's not very common to see, but I've seen a couple where they actually have that hanging out the bottom right there. If you're ever interested in buying one, there's a lady on Facebook who lives in Novigrad, and her name on Facebook is Lestovka. Lestovka, whatever her last name is. But she makes the most beautiful and the nicest ones I've ever gotten. And she has some where they have the movable pieces dangling out from the bottom. But that is the only place I've ever actually seen that. Most of them are tucked inside, or at least supposed to be tucked inside. Yeah. Like, I feel this one, and I'm like, and this one's from Russia too, but I'm like feeling it, and I'm like, I don't know, there's something in there.
Yeah, because I remember I got a Lestovka from the monastery, which I guess they get the same ones that Church of the Nativity sells, and
well, we make those ones.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah, our one reader makes those.
No kidding. Well, there you go, folks.
That's why they're kind of neat, but they're also a little stiff and a little more basic than some of the ones you get. But he makes them by hand and stuff.
Yeah, like, because I mean, there's Lestovka makers on like Etsy and all over the internet that make some really beautiful stuff. But I'm an idiot because I cut the leaves off of mine because
see what was in there.
Well, no, because a monk friend of mine had cut his off because he was like, yeah, it's too bulky when I'm trying to use it in church. Because you got to remember, he wasn't an old ritualist; he's just a road core monk. So I was like, oh, that makes sense. That's kind of practical. But now I regret it because, I don't have any leaves on my Lestovka. So now I've got to buy another one, which that'll happen eventually. Let's see. Let's check in with the chat right quick because I'm curious as to if people have questions. A lot of people just saying you should love the blah blah blah. Hey, there you go.
There's me in action with my one with the crosses.
Oh, there you go.
During Pascha.
Awesome.
Some year ago, and right there, the guy with the back holding the cross. That's Matthew. He's the reader who makes the little Lestovkas and stuff. And whatnot. And then there's all of us in our white church shirts and our poyases. Father Theodore with the gospel. Good cool. Times.
Yeah, I'm checking to see. John MC chiming in here. In our old church, the priest designated who took photos at appropriate times. Not during liturgy. Pascha 15 years ago, he stopped liturgy 3 times and threw people with cell phones out of the church. Based.
I've been guilty of the cell phone thing in church. I remember one of the things that we do in the service that I've never seen another church do is we have during Matins, we read the homilies of St. John Chrysostom.
Yes.
For the gospel reading for the next day, for Sunday.
Yeah.
So we call them sitters. You get to sit down.
Mm-hmm.
It's the only time you get to sit. Well, I mean, you can sit if you want to sit, but it's the only time everyone sits down. And they'll read and this is a book that I got to get to, the Gospel Commentary of St. John Chrysostom.
Oh, nice.
It's all the Gospel readings for the whole year, for every Sunday, and for all the feast days and everything. And
cool.
And it's a couple of the verses, and then his interpretation, a couple verses and his interpretation and stuff. But I remember this was way back when I had like a Nokia brick phone, where the only game you could run was like Snake.
Yep.
I remember I was sitting there on the back step, and all of a sudden that thing started ringing.
Uh-oh.
and I was sitting back there like this, and I'm like, what jerk's phone is ringing around in here? And then I'm sitting there, and then all of a sudden I was like, oh no, I'm the jerk with the phone ringing. Then a couple years after that, Father Theodore he was in church painting something. And when he paints, he has his phone on the scaffolding with him and stuff.
Yeah. And
then he got down for the service, and then all of a sudden this phone started ringing up on the scaffolding. He was down there on the choir thing, and all of a sudden he was just like, oh man.
That happens to the best of us.
He's like, I'm that jerk.
So now I do have some questions about practices according to the Old Rite. The big one I spoke with people about on the last stream was the preparation for communion. And the Old Rite has something like 24 prayers, something like that.
24? What are you talking about?
Or it's some long number.
It's like 700.
It sure seems like it. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember I seem to remember you had mentioned back in the day that you'd read a couple every night of the week to prepare yourself.
Yes. Yeah, you can do that. You can read a couple every night of the week and stuff like that. And also for communion, we use 7 loaves of bread. Okay. And I know other people don't use 7 loaves of bread.
No, they don't.
No. So, you can indeed, and it's funny because I always see on the internet people talking about prayer rules and ask your priest and all that stuff and blah, 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 blah. And like our bishop, our priest, they'll tell you, do what you think you feel is enough.
Yeah.
I read these things where someone's like, I went to my priest to see how many prayers I should read at night. And I'm like, I never even thought of doing that. Yeah. I open up my prayer book and I try to read them all. But if for some reason I find myself like too tired or throat hurts or whatever, well, then I don't read them all. You know what I mean? And then like with your communion prayers, if you go home and you read those communion prayers on Saturday nights before Sunday, you're talking about like an hour and a half of reading prayers. Yes. It can be very strenuous, So what I do is when I'm going to commune is I'll read them throughout the week. I'll do a couple every day, every night, like after I'm done like with an evening prayer or whatever. And if for some reason I didn't do any, I read the 7 biggest ones on Saturday nights. Okay. So that way it kind of fills it out right there. And I have, sat down and read them all on Saturday night and stuff. But just, doing what you can do is the idea. And of course, being in the Old Rite, they do want you to do them all. It's kind of like I'm a private music teacher for those that don't know, which is probably everybody. But I always tell my students, I'm like, practice at least this long. But if you can practice longer, it's going to be better for you. Yes. In the long, and it's the same thing with your prayer life. At least pray for this long. But if you can do it all, that's ideal. Yes. And when I tell you to practice every day, I literally do mean every day. But I know you're not going to do it every day. But I do mean it when I say it. You know what I mean? And it's the same. It's the same thing with your prayer book. Like it says communion prayers, and there's a start and there's a stop. And they do want you to read them all. Where are my communion prayers? There they are.
See, you're using the second edition as well. I knew that was the best one.
But that's how thick the communion prayers are right there.
Now, of course, that is parallel text, but still, it's a nice chunk of paper. Yes.
It is a parallel text, but there's a good size font and everything, and the whole shebang. But yeah, it takes a little bit of time to get all that stuff going and everything. But yeah, this is the one that I always loved right here.
Yeah, that's by far my favorite as well. The red one is just a little too hard to manipulate, honestly. I think it's too square.
This was gifted to me by Father Theodore on Friday, April 5th in the year 7,510.
7,510. Or 2002.
Yeah, otherwise known as March 23rd, 2002.
Yeah, and for those of you that don't know, there is just a wealth of extra information in this prayer book as far as
there is that whole little section in the back after your communion prayers, where it gets into like how you can use the Lestovka. Yep. So like if you can't make it to church and stuff like that, how many of them to do, how many prostrations to do, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then it's got like all the feast days and all that stuff in there. Most of your Chapari and Kentucky are in here and stuff.
Yeah, Yep. And it is a beautiful, absolutely beautiful book.
And the thing, and I know primarily your stuff is books. And the thing about this book I like over the third edition is the size. Yeah. The third edition is very beautiful, and it's red because somewhere along the way we decided to make all of our books red.
As
so
you
it
do.
matches the rest of it. But like right here, like you can literally stick this like in your sweatshirt pocket.
Yes.
Stuff,
Yeah.
Then go with it. Where the other one's kind of like,
It's a brick. This new one's a brick.
It is a brick.
It's.
And then
I mean,
you got these guys. Oh, this is gonna make you excited right here.
Yeah, that's all the different liturgies, right?
It is all the different liturgies.
Yeah. Good grief.
We got the all-night vigil.
Now, those are all in the prayer book, though, right?
No. There's abbreviated versions in the prayer book.
Oh.
the most popular parts. Prayer book's kind of like a collection of greatest hits.
Right on.
But like this is the entire liturgy for St. John right there and stuff, from beginning to end. And this is actually the same book that the priest will use. You have your Old Church Slavonic and your English. And for those that don't know, Church Slavonic in the Old Rite is not the same Church Slavonic that you are using in your parish. Many things are spelled differently.
Give me 2 seconds. The cat wants to go out.
Oh,
I forgot to leave the window open. 2 seconds. Go on, get out of here, you. Go on. There you go. Yeah, I have this thing that I fashioned to put in my window, so it leaves a little opening for the cats to go in and out. And it was so hot in here earlier that I took it out, and the cats woke up at some point and decided they wanted to go out. So my apologies there.
Yeah, no problem.
But so now you mentioned earlier, and since we're talking about practices or whatever, and you guys stick to the whole, men on Christ's side of the iconostasis and women on the Theotokos side of the iconostasis.
Say that again. I'm sorry.
Oh no, it's okay. So you stick to the men on the Christ side, women on the Theotokos side during services.
Well, that's how it's supposed to be.
Exactly. Now your choir is your choir divided as well?
Oh yeah. Our choir is divided. Let me see here, and our choir is in the front.
Yes.
In front of the iconostasis, like a traditional Old Believer parish would do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where all the reading and everything is done at.
Right.
But yes, there's a men's choir and there's a women's choir. And to be honest, this is why everything takes so damn long in church. Because we have to sing everything 3 damn times. I don't sing it, the women will sing it, we'll all sing it.
That's kind of beautiful though, huh?
No, it really is. But I mean, like, I remember the first time I ever went to and not when I actually realized what was happening, not when I went to the cathedral in San Francisco, but I was in a church in Buffalo with Father Theodore. He was painting the church and stuff. And we hit the canon, at the end of Matins. And they were done with that thing in like 20 minutes. And I was like, wait a minute.
No one finishes Matins in 20 minutes. Come on.
It was probably longer than 20 minutes, but I mean, like, that's like the longest part of the service for us, when that happens. When that happens, it's like, oh, we got another hour and 40 minutes to go here, But you can see here, if I can move this around, that the women are over here on the left and the men are over here on the right there.
Uh-huh.
And between each ode of the canon, both the choirs will come together in the center in front of the royal doors.
Okay.
And sing the whole shebang, and then split and go into the next ode, and then do all the parts back and forth and everything, and then come back.
So a lot of movement.
Do that for every single ode of the canon.
Wow. So that's a lot of movement too.
Oh, there's a lot of movement. Like, see, there's this light that's on right here. That's shining down. So you can tell that they just split, or they're about to get back together in the center right there, because that little light would pop on. And then this little kid over here in the corner, he lives for turning that switch on. He's
nice.
Like, is it time? I'm gonna switch it now.
I love how kids get into the liturgy sometimes. Like, we've got a couple of altar servers that are just tiny, but man, they love it. They're holding the fans and everything, the candles and everything. Yeah, they love it. It's fantastic. So what What major differences? Okay, we discussed the choir, like the liturgy of St. John Chrysostom. Major differences between the way you guys do them and the way like the newer rite does them. What stands out to you?
Between the liturgy, the actual liturgy itself, not a whole lot. They're very, 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 very similar and stuff. And I can't really think of anything real significant between the liturgies themselves.
But maybe the practices.
You'll see most of the differences in the other services.
Okay.
Especially matins and stuff like that. But like, let me think here.
Because I would imagine like most of the big differences are just in the practice of the services and not the services themselves.
I was just gonna say most of them are like in the practices. Like all movement in the altar goes counterclockwise.
Okay.
All movement outside of the altar goes clockwise.
Ah.
Processions around the church go clockwise. Processions around the thing when you get married go clockwise. And if you were to do a procession in the church because you can't go outside, it's going to be clockwise.
Right.
And the significance of that whole thing is with the Old Rite is in the altar everything goes counterclockwise because it's outside of time.
Yes.
It doesn't exist within tangible time. It's an eternal blissful moment. And then once you come out of the altar, you are now subjected to time, so everything goes counterclockwise.
Okay.
You're going to see differences in the consecration of the gifts and stuff like that. Nobody holds anything up in the air or does this stuff with their arms. It's just actually blessing the table and all that stuff. And then the prayers that they do in the consecration, they seem a little bit longer. So I don't know. I'd have to see a book to find the differences of what's going on in there and stuff.
Well, luckily I know of a specific YouTube channel that does things like look and compare liturgical books. I wonder who that is.
Oh, I wonder who that is.
But
we're gonna have to get you a copy of the liturgy here so you can compare that with some other books and stuff.
Yeah, just add it to the pile.
And like right before communion, I know in a lot of New Rite parishes, everybody says that prayer together out loud. Mm-hmm. In the Old Rite, that is the priest. That's the priest prayer. In the Old Rite, he comes out and he says that I am the chief sinner, and all that stuff right there.
And that's actually what's common in monastic use as well. Like at Holy Cross, the priest comes out before administering the gifts, says the prayer. He says it. No one else does. That's fine.
No one else says it.
Whereas in the parish, or at least in my parish, I can't speak for anyone else's, that prayer, when the priest begins to pray that prayer in the altar, the rest of the people join in that prayer.
That's what we got Father Pimmon doing right here.
There you go.
Hey, look at that guy in the black shirt back there.
If you put a mustache on that guy, he looks familiar.
You put a mustache on that guy, he looks like That's a horrible picture. That's why I was wearing my baseball hat.
Well, yeah, I feel you on that. I mean, bald guy problems, but now that also brings up the next question. I meant to ask it earlier. So what's the deal with the shirt and the belt? Tell folks about that.
Well, okay, the shirt and the belt. The shirt is simply a church shirt, and it doesn't really hold any real significance at all. It's just a traditional shirt worn from back before the schism. It's actually just like a Russian peasant shirt and stuff. The idea of the poyas, the rope, though, is that you should gird yourself. It says several times in the Bible you should gird yourself against the devil. And you will find a lot of old believers. And this is where you get into the separation of like old believers and old ritualists. You get old believers where they have a poyas, a rope belt, around their waist, under their pants and their shirts and stuff.
Oh, wow.
Along with your cross. Because they say that when you die, the devil's going to come and see if you have a cross and see if you're girded against him. And if you have a cross on your poyas, then he'll leave you be. And if not, then he'll take your soul.
Wow, that's frightening.
And I'm a little superstitious, so I actually don't own a belt. I actually use a poyas to hold my pants up.
There you go. I got this.
And I'm wearing my.
I get this sort of thing, and I tried wearing it as a belt for a while, but I felt like a hippie because it's so big.
It's a little. That one's a little thick.
Yeah, it's just a little thick. I might have to get something just a little thinner, or maybe I could just call my web belt that I've worn forever a poyos and call it a day.
It just needs to be a woven belt.
Then I'm set. I've got the only belt I ever wear is and I replace the web belt all the time, but it's the belt buckle of this web belt. It's not like an army surplus one. It's actually a dog pile. You remember dog pile, right? The old punk wear. Yeah, that I got back in like 99, 2000. Still use it.
Wait, never mind. I was just thinking about other services and stuff. Here's a great old picture from when everybody was priestless. I just saw it, so I got to share it, not to cut you off.
Nice. No, you're good. And while you're pulling that up, Aaron Saxon wants to know where we can get those shirts. Oh, wow, look at that.
You can call the Church of the Nativity. No, you can't call the Church of the Nativity. Olga. You got to know an old lady. Olga makes most of the church shirts now and everything and stuff. I've had several made by Patty Gregoroff. She made a bunch. She was the lady who would make them and stuff. And Olga actually does make them and have them for sale in the bookstore. So, which I used to run. I don't run anymore. But I can get you in touch with her and get yourself a church shirt. And you know what? It's funny because like it's very nice to have. You don't ever have to worry about what you're wearing the shirt.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Now this is an old Lestovka, Father Nikita, and this is obviously a Pascha thing right here and stuff.
Yes.
And you can doing the procession and everything and whatnot. You got your ladies carrying the icons. Now it's interesting because this headscarf has changed in years. Because this is the one way the headscarf was worn.
Yes.
Starting in like the 50s and stuff. But we can go back to, what is that? We can go back to this era, and you can really see how the headscarf has changed. It's the Church of the Nativity getting a little modern.
Oh wow! So it was kind of like a nun's habit almost.
Yes.
Wow.
And that's in front of the old church building right there.
Okay.
The Smithsonian did a big thing one time on the Old Believers of Erie and stuff and whatnot. And like the choir went down to the Smithsonian and performed and everything and whatnot. And it was pretty neat. But yeah, that's how the scarf. And you can see like everybody's got the little stuff because every single one of those little twerps. I can't make it any bigger.
And look at the size of the leaves on those things. Jeez.
Yeah, that's huge right there.
Massive. Huh.
And even the girls, and if you look, even the girls are wearing poyases.
Oh yeah.
It's kind of hard to tell. But traditionally, and some of the old ladies still wear this, women would wear like a black jumper. Like black, like working in the thing, and like tie your poyas around that and everything too and stuff.
Huh.
You can carry your Lestovka in the whole 9 yards.
That's fantastic.
But you really only see the old ladies doing that nowadays. You don't see much of it. Now the standard uniform for girls is normal scarf under the chin. Everybody wears a skirt to the ankle. Not the men. We wear pants and long sleeves.
Right on.
So, and if you're going to visit, please wear long sleeves and pants.
Yes.
I'll never forget a friend of ours. I believe you know him as well, Father Christopher Foley.
Yes.
The first time I met him,
I
had not met him on the internet yet. I was standing in church, and this priest rolled in with his wife and his kids, and he was wearing his like OCA priest thing, like he has like a vest thing that they wear or something, and his wife was wearing slacks and she wasn't wearing a scarf. Oof. And the kids were in shorts and t-shirts and stuff. And I didn't see them come in, but I noticed the old ladies were doing this. and of course, nobody is going to like ask you to leave. Nobody's going to ruin that for you. You know, like that would be the worst thing ever in the world. Be like, oh, you got to go. You know, but like doesn't mean an old lady isn't. doesn't mean an old lady isn't going to stare you down.
Yeah.
So I looked and I was like, oh man. And then I noticed that he started to gather his kids up to like leave or something and stuff. And I came running back and I stopped him and I was like, hey, I was like, I know that those old ladies are staring you down, but you don't have to leave, you know. Just ask your wife to please put on a scarf and you guys are cool, you know. I'm like, that's probably the biggest thing they're losing their crap about over there. And then he was like, no, we didn't know, you know, but we can totally tell. He's like, we're terribly sorry, you know, and he ended up leaving, but I ended up talking to him outside for about a half an hour, 20 minutes and stuff. And he was like, we'll be back again, and we'll make sure that everyone's dressed right and stuff. But like if you don't know, you don't know.
Yeah.
But if you know, then you know it's appreciated. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's like some people are like, well, I ain't gonna do that. It's like, well, it's like taking your shoes off at someone's house. You know, like, please take your shoes off. You know, please dress accordingly. This is what we do. This is what we observe. You know, we want you to come and hang out too, for sure. But you know, like, don't be wearing like pink jam shorts and Megadeth t-shirt. You know?
I mean,
and on Easter. I always used to wear my one zombie Anthrax shirt all the time underneath my church shirt.
You know, living in the South, there's things are a little more lax, like in the summer, just because of the sweltering heat. But I've, you know, even so, like there's people that show up, like there's women that'll show up at my church with like low cut shirts. Short skirts, knee boots, and stuff, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" Like,
it's like that at Pascha for us. It's not so much Christmas, but Pascha. You'll get like the latest Russian immigrant girls that come showing up. They all come running in to kiss the icon and stuff and light a candle, and you'll notice because like some little kid will be looking back there. And then you look back and there'll be like a girl in stiletto heels and a mini skirt. And it's like, there they are. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, it's like,
you know. They got their like big things on. They come running in and they light their candle, they kiss the icon and stuff. And that's another thing we don't do. When you come to church, when you first come in, if you're late or on time, you go up and venerate the icon in the center of church and light a candle. You do not walk around during the service and venerate things.
No.
Like, and I've seen this in other churches. You know, like someone will be sitting there in the service, all of a sudden someone will just start walking around and start kissing everything and stuff. You know, like we don't do that. And surprisingly, nobody does that ever.
Yeah.
That's not a thing. Like I've seen visitors come and like after church they're walking around trying to kiss the icons on the walls and stuff, and I'm just like, that's cool if that's what you want to do, but like, we don't do that. And please don't do that during church, because honestly, during the service, the way that the mindset everything is in a traditional Old Rite church is, once it is started, you stand still and you don't move unless you gotta poop so bad. You gotta go, you know.
Which I know is probably a frequent issue for you.
Missed communion a couple times.
Oof. I tell you, of all the reasons. Here's a question from the chat. Brian Gordy wants to know, do you have to wear a mask in your liturgy? Are they enforcing that for you guys?
Yes. There has been mask mandates, and the parish has been full on with going along with all of it, you know. The only time you can take your mask off is if you're actually receiving communion, and even if you're singing on the choir, you wear your mask and everything. Wow. Now here in Pennsylvania, they've actually starting 2 days ago, done away with the mask mandate.
Okay.
And it's up to the establishment now. Like if you go to Kmart, well, they don't have Kmart anymore. I got to quit referencing these stores that don't exist
right
anymore.
What do you mean we can't go to Montgomery Ward's anymore?
Yeah, you go to the Woolworths store. MC Woolworths, and they have a sign that says wear a mask. You have to wear a mask.
Yeah.
If they don't have a sign, then you don't have to wear a mask.
Okay.
So there is that. And then there's another practice that they've done with communion, which has turned a couple people off. They've started using disposable plastic spoon.
Yeah.
So that way, it just goes right in the bucket after you receive your communion and all that stuff. And that made my one friend really turned off, where he's just like, I'm not going to go back to church until they get rid of that.
Yeah, I mean that's been a big point of contention for a lot of people.
And then also in Old Rite Parish, and I think this goes back to being a priestless old believers and stuff, is people don't commune often. Like a communion line is usually like 3 or 4 people, unless it's like a major feast day and stuff like that. I don't know why, but there's some kind of a stigma about communing often. I think it's looked at as like, I'm not really ever ready for this, so I'm not going to do this and stuff like that.
So it's kind of like a really deep reverence, where it's just like, you know what, I shouldn't be greedy about this and be blasé.
It's like a very, very deep reverence. We're like I visited other churches and like everybody gets in line. You know?
Oh yeah.
Boom, whole parish, you know.
Yeah.
And it's also this funny thing too, because like when the communion line first starts to form, you know, they bring out the icon and they set it in the center of church and stuff, and they do that at your church, right?
Nope.
You bring out the cross or the icon for the feast day and put it in the center of church?
Well, it's in the center of the church, but it's there, like as soon as someone gets there, like someone has put that icon in its place, and it just stays. See,
in our parish, right before they start singing, the song for communion and stuff, if there's no feast day, they'll bring a cross, metal cross out of an altar, put it on the pedestal, and then put it in the center. And then that's the cue to, like, okay, now it's time to start lining up for communion. And then you'll notice that people will be standing there, and people start looking around and be like, so, are you gonna go? I might go. I don't know. If you go, I'll get behind you.
Yeah, I know.
And then all of a sudden, then someone will break the ice and go up there, and then all of a sudden, like, and then they're up.
That's not a common thing in my parish, at least. Like, there have been times where everyone's just kind of like, no one wants to be the first,
right?
And I'll just run up there. I'll be like, I'll be that ass. I'll be that guy. But when it's not like a major feast with an icon for it, we have, because we're St. Basil, so we have an icon of St. Basil that sits on the analogian in the center instead of a cross. And then the cue for people to come up is just when the priest comes out with the gifts and says, "With faith and love draw near," and then people just kind of go. But a lot of people do commune on a regular basis, and I think that's just based on like the last 100 years of the teachings that, like, you know, if we're not communing often, we're depriving ourselves of spiritual gifts. So there's some of that going on,
right?
But yeah, I did not know. Like, I think that's kind of a beautiful practice of, like, so now when they bring out the cross or the icon, you're expected to venerate before you go?
Yeah, venerate it. You go up and you venerate it, and like, there's a difference in veneration I've noticed too. I don't know what all this touching the floor is.
It's a sign of a deep bow, I guess.
But you know, in the Old Rite, when you're taught to like venerate things, you know, it's very solid bow forward. You know, not like this little slouchy thing, and you make the sign of the cross very neat. And you cross yourself twice, and then you kiss it, and then you cross yourself again, and then you go up onto the ambrose, and then you turn and you bow to the men, and then you bow to the women, and they all bow to you as you bow to them, and then you get in line for communion. Right. That's how we do that there. Another interesting veneration moment, which I don't know if everybody does this, but we venerate the gospel in matins.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, that is common practice, or at least it was in the monastery. We don't do matins at our church yet, because like, you know, we started off as a mission. We're still kind of growing, and so we're slowly but surely adding more services into everything as we get bigger, because now there's enough people to actually show up to the services that want the services. So
right.
So it's getting to that point.
But when we venerate the gospel in matins, it's with prostration. There's a lot of prostrations in the Old Rite. So you got 2 prostrations, venerate the gospel, and then you bow to the priest, and then do your last prostration, bow to each other, and then you go back and stuff. And then another interesting concept with prostrations is the great canon of St. Andrew of Crete.
Yeah.
If you are ever going to visit an Old Rite parish, do not do it on that day. There is over 900 prostrations in the Great Canon, and we do them all, and it sucks.
Well, but that also explains where Russian women's legendary hip and quad strength comes from.
I got busted a couple of years ago by Matushka because they happen so fast too. It's like bam, 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 sing a little bit, bam, 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 sing a little bit, and I was so tired. I went down for the first one and just stayed down. I didn't get up for the
no.
And then like a couple minutes later, she's in my ear. She's like, Stephen, if you're gonna be on the choir, you have to do them all. You can't just disappear like that.
You gotta stretch, man. Stretching is key. I learned that as a catechumen. My first Lent, I made all those prostrations during that first service, and man, I was sore for days, and then I stretched, and I realized that if I stretch, it doesn't hurt as bad.
And this is true. Stretching is very, very, very important. Very important.
Right on.
But yeah, the great canon. On another quick little cute story with the icon in the center of church for communion and stuff. So this was a couple years ago, but Vladika John asked me to record the liturgy because he knows that I'm big into guitars and home recording and stuff. So I was like, because he wanted a copy of our singing and stuff to share with one of the parishes in Russia because they don't quite do it right.
Okay.
Which I thought was interesting. I was like, so the American parish in Erie does it better than the church in Russia. All right.
That's wild.
So I put a microphone in front of the men's choir and a microphone in front of the women's choir. And then I had another microphone I placed kind of like center near the royal doors, but not in the way, nothing offensive. And then I had another mic that I wanted to put back away from everything to kind of catch the fullness of it coming off the wall. So I put this microphone in the center of the church, and I was like, I just can't have a microphone in the center of the church, I'm like, that looks ridiculous, and everyone's going to be like, what the hell? And then people are going to trip over and stuff. And then I was like, no one ever said that we couldn't put that icon out early, so I'll just put that icon out and have the microphone behind it.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right. So when I got the pedestal and I put the microphone there and I put the thing there and I had the wire neatly tucked along the side of the rug. It didn't stand out right away and stuff. And then I came in the church and Father Pittman was like, oh, Stephen. He goes, you got me so good. I was like, I got you. He goes, Stephen, I came into the church and I turned on all the lights and that icon was just in the center of the church out of nowhere. And he's like, and I thought, oh my God, it's a miracle. This is a sign from God. Oh man. And he goes, I was about to fall down on my knees and pray. Then he goes, and then I noticed this black wire. He's like, when I looked, that microphone was there.
Now, and that's the recording you sent me, right?
Yeah, I believe I sent that
a few years back.
Yeah. Yep, and I've actually been meaning to post that to YouTube because a lot of people want to hear the liturgy and stuff like that, and we do live stream it now. Ever since the pandemic, we do live stream it, but a live stream versus a well done audio recording, are two very different things.
Which brings up the next question. Have you guys ever thought of doing like a professional recording for mass consumption?
We have, actually.
Okay.
Based on that recording right there, Father Pittman was like, I'd like to make a recording of all, like, of services for a whole feast day. And we talked about doing it for for the exaltation of the cross.
Oh, nice.
The universal exaltation. We figured that was a good universal kind of feast day that you could listen to whenever.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like here's Christmas or here's Pascha.
Yeah.
It's like, so we have talked about that, but we have issues getting all of the choir to show up.
Yeah.
Because like our choir is not like other choirs. Like I know other choirs are like very serious and professional and da 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 da.
Mm-hmm.
And ours is just made up of the community and stuff, and just whoever shows up and it's fine.
Yeah.
Nobody cares. There's sometimes where there's one girl on the women's side.
Oh wow.
There's sometimes where there's two guys on the guy's side. And it's just whatever. You just do that. So it'll probably happen in the future here, but we're going through some other changes right now, history-wise and stuff. We're actually looking for our next priest and stuff because Father Pim wants to retire.
Yeah. And
in old belief, we don't take our clergy from seminary. All the clergy is elected from within. It's all a local election and stuff, and if everybody votes for you to be the priest, you're the priest.
Wow.
If everyone votes for you to be the deacon, you're the deacon.
Keep your head down.
But I know that we've had a visitor, and I'm not going to get into who he is because it's his personal stuff and whatnot.
Right.
But he's from another country, and he's come to visit a bunch of times and befriended the parish, and he's very knowledgeable on the Old Rite and stuff. And we actually had an election to elect him as a deacon.
Oh, cool.
In hopes that he will become the next rector of the parish and stuff. Because Father Pimen's about at the retirement age.
Yep.
And Father Theodore is technically retired.
Oh.
From a couple of years ago, but you don't ever really get to retire.
Yeah. You might not be on the payroll, but you're still a priest,
Yeah. And then Father Herotheus, he is still one of our main priests, but he's not really interested in being the rector.
Yeah.
He's fine with being like the assistant priest and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So we're looking into that stuff right now. So we've got a little stuff to juggle before we get into like let's record things and get all this cracking and stuff and whatnot. We're still trying to figure out the direction, and that's what I mean by like the term old ritualist versus old believer is really going to become a more predominant term and stuff. You know, like obviously like. Well, like I said, the parish is changing. And surprisingly enough, for being an old rite or old believer church, there's a good number of converts that come to the church now and stuff. We have an Eritrean population that comes to liturgy. Huh. And like when I say a population, it's like 2 families,
Still.
But they come, they take their shoes off, and they come to church with their socks on and stuff, and the women are all wrapped up in the stuff, and they bring awesome food to breakfast.
Heck yeah!
That all the little kids are afraid of. But I'm like,
it's like you don't know what you're missing.
They're like, that looks weird, and I'm like, it tastes delicious though. So definitely the scope of the parish is changing with history and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And then it's funny too because you'll get like some Russian visitors and stuff, and they'll be like trying to talk to you in Russian. And like everybody knows like a couple words in Russian and stuff, and then the guy's like, "You don't speak Russian?" And it's like,
this is America, bro.
This parish has been here for 100 years. Ain't nobody in here speaking Russian except for like that old lady in the priest. You got to talk to Olga from the bookstore. She's from Russia.
Yeah.
From the Ukraine.
So
she's super awesome too.
Question from the chat. Curious about how often you guys do confession.
Confession. That's something we do totally different than you guys. Okay. Confession. We do confession. I want to say like twice a month.
Okay.
2 times a month. One time I was visiting St. Sergius in Cleveland, and I kept seeing people go up and stand by the deacon door or whatever, and then the priest would come out and they'd tuck into that corner, and he would do this thing with like his like oriform or whatever over their heads and stuff. And I'm like, what the hell is going on over there? What are they doing? And then I found out they're doing confession. in the Old Rite, confession is a whole service on its own.
Okay.
It's got a gospel reading. It's got hymns, everything. And everybody comes in, and you can do this anywhere. It doesn't. We usually do it in the funeral parlor. You don't have to do it in the church proper or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we do it in the baby room, where you take your babies when they cry and stuff. But you come in, and everybody gets their Produshnik. You do your opening prayers. And opening prayers is something too that I don't see in other parishes and stuff, which is interesting. But we'll talk about that coming up.
Mm-hmm.
But you do your entrance prayers, your opening prayers, and then the service starts, and everybody listens to the priest, and he reads this and that and everything and stuff, and then everybody leaves the room, and you come back in one at a time, and you don't tell the priest anything you've done. They ask you a series of questions. There's 10 questions they ask. They want to know, and this is where it's really good too, because he'll say things like, have you had impure thoughts, seen impure images, or fornicated?
Rats!
If you're guilty of any of them, you just say, Brother, forgive me, and you do a prostration.
Okay.
And then he'll say, have you smoked, overdrank, been lazy or tardy? And, if you have, you go down and stuff. Like, have you been loose in your spiritual reading? Have you found yourself drifting off during services and not paying attention?
Mm-hmm.
Have you forsaken God in your heart, And if you have, you go down and stuff, And then at the end, he'll be like, well, is there anything else maybe I didn't cover that you want to talk about or anything? And if you don't, you just go, nah, I'm cool.
That's actually pretty cool.
It is actually pretty cool. And then after, and it's funny too, because like I'll go in there and I'll be in and out. And then like some old lady will be in there for like 20 minutes. And I'm like, what are you doing?
She feels really bad about something. Because I know the way we do it is like, we just go in individually, there's a prayer, and, according to the Typicon, there's a whole service. I could pull it out. But but the priest will say, Christ stands before us, it is to him you confess. And then you'd be like, oh, I whacked off or whatever, or did this, that, or the other thing. And then the priest will kind of talk to you about it for a second and be like, well, how can we change this? Here's,
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the absolution, which is when they put the stole over your head, and then they do the absolution, and that's it. But you'll find often in several different prayer books, like examination of conscience, which covers a lot of what like in the Old Rite the priest would be asking. So personally, I'm a fan of having my brain picked when I go to confession. And I would imagine a lot of people have this issue too, where it's like you show up to confession and it's like you don't quite know what to say.
And that's the one thing about the whole thing that is really nice, because like you're like, you get in there and you're like, it's like going to the record store. When I go to the record store, I know when I'm leaving at home the night before, I know all 10 records I'm looking for, and then I get there and I'm like,
yep.
I don't know, whatever. So. Yeah, well, and then after everybody goes in and comes out, everybody goes in, you do one long prostration, and he reads the gospel about the prophet Nathan and all that stuff, or it's an Old Testament reading actually about the prophet Nathan and David and everything. And then you all come up one at a time and you venerate the gospel, and then the priest gives you absolution right there, but he doesn't put anything over your head. He just gives you the blessing and says, God forgives you for the servant Stephen for his sins and blah, 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 blah. And then you kiss his hand and you go on and stuff. And that's pretty much it in a nutshell.
That's pretty beautiful, man.
It is, and they usually do it on Saturday mornings and stuff. But the one thing that we kind of started doing, which some people find very interesting, is here we go. Is every once in a while during matins, they'll have confession in this baby room for those that can't make it on Saturday mornings and stuff. And Father Herothius will do that. Now, right here is actually, because I'm a freaking mega nerd when it comes to old ritual stuff, is the confession service and the questions. And they ask you questions about the sins against God. Do you pray to God in the morning and evening and before and after meals? During prayer, have you allowed your thoughts to wander? Da 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 da. And then you get on to the next page and you have sins against yourself.
Yes.
So they will get into all of this different stuff here, and not everyone gets the same questions all the time. Your priest knows you, so he kind of knows what he wants to ask you and stuff and everything.
Yeah, that's actually very almost spot on what you would see in the newer Rite prayer books as like an examination of conscience. So but again, I'm personally a fan of being asked instead of trying to remember things.
And I am too. It's just so much easier. That and nobody is supposed to be judging you, but it's hard to come clean with someone like 100%.
Yeah.
You're always living in fear of somebody judging you.
Yes.
For what you've done. You know what I mean? And yeah, the whole question thing is very nice. And then sometimes at the end there is something to talk about. Like I remember the one time when I was like, I really feel I need to get myself in better shape and lose a little bit of weight and everything. And then, my priest was like, well, if you switch to vodka and water, I know you like to drink whiskey and Coke all the time.
Yeah, straight vodka, just,
you get some real spiritual help, Oh, man. But yeah, that's definitely an interesting thing right there, confession. And I have done confession in the new Rite, but I have been told by my priest not to do confession in the new Rite.
Really?
He told me not to do it. Yeah. Because he said I should always confess to one of the priests that I actually know and stuff.
Well,
like that,
yeah, it's always best to confess to your spiritual father or parish priest.
Yeah, he was like, you don't need to always take confession before you take communion and stuff like that. He's like, so if you're going to commune at another church, if you feel okay, just take communion, But he's like, say if you're confessing for me or Father Theodore or Father Protheus and stuff, He's like, don't play this game of you're going to go tell your worst sins to the other guy, so you don't find out.
And believe you me, that thought crosses my mind all the time. It's like, man, I don't want to tell Father about this.
I think it probably crosses everybody's mind a couple of times.
Oh yeah.
There's the settings, dude. Oh my gosh!
You found them?
2.5 hours, and I grabbed the side of the screen with my mouse and pulled it, and all these things popped up.
Well, now you know for next time.
Right?
Crumb.
Oh man.
I'm just gonna troll the chat here, see if there's any questions that are with a lot of people just talking amongst themselves, answering questions you already answered because they know everything. Sarah, I didn't overlook your question. I am literally just... This is not like a normal stream where I'm just staring at the screen the whole time. I'm actually engaged with our guest. But I will try to find your question since it seems to be heavy on your mind. Oh, boy. Totally Norman with an... Sarah, I'm looking for your question. Bear with me. Do you know Emilia Markov or Bro Atranik?
Emilia
Markov?
I know her family. I don't think I know her.
Huh. I guess that's the question she wanted answered.
The Markovs, I believe, actually attend the little church around the corner.
Oh, okay. Well, there's your answer, Sarah.
Who was the other fella?
Oh, heck, I scrolled past it again. The chat is just massive. I'm not going to lie. Actually, oh boy. Let's see if I can find this. Bear with me.
I have a folder called Fun Stuff. I opened it, and the prayer of Saint Ephraim was there, and all I could think was, "That's not fun."
Bro Atranik, Atrannik?
No.
Sorry, Stranik. Stranik.
No.
Okay. So
they might be massive hooky players and show up on Pascha. Because there's a lot of that in the world, too.
Well, here's a question I know I can answer. It's been asked here in the chat. What if you disagree with the priest over what is a sin, like the priest doesn't think it is, but you think it is? Do you confess it? Listen, the priest knows best. So just go with that.
And if you think it's a sin and you confess it in front of your icons in your heart, well, then you confessed it. You know what I mean? Because, there's confession, and then there's confession to God. There's a lot of things I think we all personally confess. Like we were saying just a little while ago, that like things that you think of at the moment while you're praying but can't remember during confession. You know what I mean? So you can totally confess in your heart to God.
Okay.
Without the priest being there, But like you said, your priest is going to know best. If he's going to tell you not to worry about it, well then try to figure out how not to worry about it, or just find comfort in your evening prayers.
Yeah. Another question, and I know how you're going to answer this, but I'm going to ask it anyway. I have some friends in Southeast Asia here, so question is, I wonder how the Old Rite feels about confession via the phone.
Oh, you know what? Like, that's definitely not a thing. Because there's a whole service that goes along with it.
Yes.
But I will tell you, I've had a couple personal moments with Father Theodore at his house when I was younger, things that had bothered me and stuff, and talked to him about and
get counsel,
cried about in front of him and stuff, and then had been like, well, I'll try to remember this for confession, and he was like, well, you just confessed, and there was no service or anything involved, and I do know there's a couple of people that like to call, they're not members of our parish, but they call Father Theodore on the phone for confession, and he does that a couple times. But overall, I think that if it was going to be a regular thing, of course that's not going to fly. Yeah. But like, if you have, like I said, like you called someone because you're so broken up about it and stuff, and you poured out your heart honestly and truthfully, that's obviously counts for something. Yeah. But like, Father Pim is not going to be like, hold on, let me put the phone on speaker while we do this service.
Pay attention, everyone in the room.
Do a group chat or anything,
Yeah.
I mean, like the whole idea of like through the pandemic, when there was a time when we're only allowed to have 10 people in church. You could only have so many people, and they were live streaming it, and he was asking everyone to watch it on live stream and stuff. And he was always like, remember, this is not a substitution for coming to services. Yes. This does not take the place of attending service. Like right now, yes, it kind of does because we have to, but like, I don't want to see you on Pascha and Christmas and have you tell me that you tune in every Sunday morning.
Oh yeah, no, that's terrible. And that's that especially my viewer base tends to lean on the whole, watching liturgy online is kind of pointless outside of just enjoying the beauty of the service, but you're not really participating. You might as well be listening to a CD or pre-recorded video.
I remember watching like Pascha services on TV, and I was like, do I stand? Do I sit? I was like, can I get a pop?
Yeah, last year's Pascha was, that was a rough one.
I mean, I was watching it on the TV set, and I was standing and I was sitting a little bit of both, because like I was just like, I don't know. You feel weird standing in your living room for like 7 hours.
It's all right. We get salty around here.
So, but I remember I actually had a nice moment though, because I was like, you know what? I'm going to drive down to church and at least follow around for the procession around the church and stuff. So I switched to my phone and then got in the car and had the phone on the thing. And while I was driving, I'm watching church and stuff. And then I get to church, and then another fella who hadn't been to church in years, probably like a good 10, 15 years or so, showed up with the same idea that he was going to walk around the church and follow the choir and stuff. So him and I stood there in front of, and it was funny because we stood in front of the church, with the church where it should be, and then right at the last minute, right before they go on the procession, Father Herman said, "Well, for the sake of the live stream, we're just going to do the procession around the inside of the church, so that way you don't have to stare at a blank screen for 10 minutes."
Oh man!
And then we were both kind of like, but then we just followed along anyway. They walked around the inside, and him and I walked around the outside together.
Awesome.
Watching them on the phone, making sure that, because we know how our church is laid out.
Yeah.
So we made sure that we're all in like the same spot and everything. Mm-hmm. And we stopped in front of the church, and sang Christ is risen and all that stuff and everything. And then when they went back to like the rest of the service, we just gave each other a hug and a kiss and said, "See you later, man."
That's
it was
awesome.
Actually it was a really nice moment.
That is beautiful.
And it was nice because like I said, he hadn't been to church in a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
So it was nice that I was there. So he didn't show up and just be all by himself. I would have been fine being by myself, but I mean, I could just imagine trying to put myself in his shoes to show up thinking you're going to do this and then have it not really happen after so many years of not being at church and then feeling kind of lonely about it and stuff. So it was nice that God supplied both of us with someone to
and
go around,
especially with the pandemic, I think it jarred a lot of people into realizing what they're missing. Because when you have the option taken away from you, it's and it's so odd that like during all this, our parish, like we have so many catechumens now, like that we're just waiting till they were allowed to come, and so
it's a very disheartening time to discover Orthodoxy.
Yeah, but glory to God, it's everything's pulling through. Let's see, there is so much has happened in the chat, but a whole lot of nothing. Anyway, we're about at the 2.5 hour mark here. Is there anything that you wanted to impart to the show?
Until they were allowed to come, and so
very disheartening. I'm on YouTube.
That latency, though.
Oh, and I paused that in a very fast spot.
But glory to God, it's everything's full.
Yeah, I wanted to look at this chat feed. As far as things that I've wanted to say or talk about, someone gave us a thumbs down. Who gave us a thumbs down?
People always do that.
That's messed up, man. I'm coming to your house. I can't see the chat.
The chat.
Oh, there it is.
Oh, you found it. Good.
I was looking in the wrong spot.
I'm actually going to pull the chat up over on my screen so I can see it. Because there has just been a lot going on. In our church, choir has always been in the front. Fair enough. Our church is over on the side in the front. Greeks have Romanized their text. People sharing links to your church shop, so that's pretty cool. Let's see what else we got. Chris Anderson just woke up, so that's cool. Ooh, Steve, my buddy Steve A, who is a contributor to the show, says someone get that man a Minnesota Twins hat.
Oh,
them's fighting words.
Oh man.
Oof.
I'm wearing my Golden State Warriors hat. That'll make you mad too.
He asks kind of a funny question: are old believers to Orthodox what Latin Mass trad are to Catholics?
Yeah, I guess so. I would say so. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Especially with the Church Slavonic actually being different.
Yes.
Old Church Slavonic versus New Church Slavonic. It is totally like the Latin versus the other things and stuff, And the older practice and everything. I think here is a good one right here. Does the Old Rite have the notion of active participation and passive participation if you attend non-Orthodox services? Our priest will tell you not to attend a non-Orthodox service.
Bingo.
He'll tell you, like, honestly, like, if you're going to a wedding or something like that, go to the reception.
Yep.
You know, or if you have to attend another church or something for some reason, personal funeral, something close, stand in the back.
Yep.
Sit in the back.
Just hang.
Say the Jesus prayer and treat it like you're visiting the zoo.
Yeah, and actually,
You know, like,
my patron Raphael of Brooklyn was pretty outspoken about that sort of thing, because at the time, you know, a lot of people were like hanging out with Episcopalians apparently, and he was like, "Stop that!" So, let's see. Joachim says the A's had a hot garbage start. Have they turned it around?
This is true.
Oh, what's with all the baseball hate? Come on.
I think the A's always have a hot garbage start, except for like 2 years ago. We were pretty good right out the gate.
Let's see. Anything else?
Sarah Keith wants to know he's picking up food.
Don't worry about us, Raph. We can entertain ourselves till you're ready. Oh, that's from before we even got the video going. Okay, so I've backed up pretty far. Let's see. The chat syncs to the video. If he played with a delay, he won't see the most recent chat. Thank you, Dositheus. I hadn't realized that. He's a good choice.
That's very, very true.
Bao wants to know, do the Old Rite reject evolution?
No.
Yeah.
I actually had this conversation with Vladika Daniel and Vladika John, and I'm actually very, very blessed to have the relationship with my bishop that I have and stuff. When he lives in South America, Vladika John is bishop of South America and the Old Rite, protector, defender of the Old Rite, and he comes to Erie, and he hangs out. He comes over all the time, and then we usually get a bottle of Glenfiddich and bullcrap all night long. We've talked about everything. We've talked about everything from emo to straight edge to Muslims to chronicles and numbers and everything and stuff. And you know, one of the things we were talking about is that good science and good religion go hand in hand. You can't have one without the other. There's a parallel. There's a line, a balance to have between them. The idea of evolution is science says it happened. It probably happened. You know, when you get into this fundamentalism of like the creation story and stuff like that, we don't know how long a day was, how long a year was when those people were writing down those inspirations and those stories and stuff like that. I think you'd be foolish to think that it all really happened in the blink of an eye, you know, and so does Vladika, where there's definitely room for science to exist in the realm of the creation story and stuff as well. I had a thought, but I just lost it. But yeah, science is a thing, you know. I always like to, when I first was like talking to Father Pittman about when I was getting real deep into theology and stuff like that, talking about science, and he brought up photosynthesis. You know, think about the beauty of photosynthesis and how beautiful it works and how elegant and simple it is, and it's real. It happens. We know it happens. You know, so I think that definitely in the realm of old believers. But yet you'll definitely run into some old people that aren't clergy that have their own personal beliefs on creation and stuff like that. But overall, for all the priests and hierarchs I've talked to and hung out with and stuff, you know, they definitely don't see an issue with evolution and creation. Now, not necessarily 100% buying into we came from animals that crawled out of the ocean. Yeah. But something happens. We don't know what, you know. Yeah. And that's part of the beauty of it is we don't know, and we don't actually need to know. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I've been saying is like, you know, in the grand scheme, it doesn't mean anything. You know, the point is
we came from
whatever
somewhere.
happened. We're here now, and now we live in light of the gospel. So,
right, that's right. And then the whole idea of like Adam and Eve. Well, Adam was the first conscious man.
Okay.
That could
sure. Why not?
First conscious man. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And what the church calendar, we're in the year 7,529 or whatever right now. That's supposedly 7,529 years since Adam was created, and civilization as we know it is roughly about 7,000, 8,000 years old. You know, so I mean, it's not far off. What happened before that year? I don't know. We came from somewhere. But we're talking about from when man first became conscious, when man was aware that there was more than just himself to worry about in the world,
Yeah, because I mean, that does line up with like some of the earliest civilizations that have been discovered that run roughly 10,000 BC. So it's like, okay, there's room for play with the numbers there, but everything does kind of line up. Now, one of the things that I've kind of gotten into over the past year or so is, just kind of learning about like ancient Mesopotamia, that sort of stuff, and the one thing that always sticks out to me is no matter which ancient civilization you study, everything lines up with biblical history.
Yeah,
which is kind of cool.
It does, and it's not like you got to go out of your way to make it fit. It does kind of just go along the grand scheme of the whole story. It really does, and that's one of the fascinating things about the world. I find interesting about it anyway. Get into like some Zoroastrianism and Judaism and stuff, like all of that comes after the first conscious man, after Adam. It's all part of the timeline right there. And that's the other thing too. When you get before man started to keep track of time, who knows how long anything was. I mean, science can tell us that the Earth is several millions years old. And I don't see any reason to think that it's not.
You can carbon date until you're blue in the face, but it doesn't change where we are now.
Things develop, like pregnancy. You're pregnant for 9 months, but do you consider that 9 months part of your child's life?
Mm-hmm.
Some
cultures do.
you start on your child's date of birth,
Yeah.
Everything before that just kind of whatever. Was it 9 months? Was it 9.5 months? Was it 8 months and 3 weeks? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's hard to say. We don't know. But yet there it was right in front of me the whole time. I didn't see it.
Right.
I think it's kind of like the same thing. Well, we know man became conscious at Adam. Everything before Adam, I don't know. Whatever. I wasn't there. I'm here now.
Here's a great question. Lawrence is asking, does the Old Rite have any unique saints?
We're really big on St. Maximus, the Confessor. He's often painted in church holding a Lestovka. We don't recognize any saints after the Schism. That's one thing that we do not do. We don't recognize, what's his name from California?
Seraphim Rose?
No, he's not a saint.
St. John of Shanghai and San Francisco?
Yeah, St. John of Shanghai. Like, we recognize him as a saint, but we don't celebrate him.
Oh, gotcha.
Anything after the Schism, we don't use any books or anything that happened after the Schism.
Okay.
It's not that we don't acknowledge St. John of Shanghai as a saint, but I actually had traveled 5 or 6 years ago with my friend Christopher to a church in Pittsburgh to celebrate St. John of Shanghai.
Okay.
Because I didn't know anything about him.
Yeah. And
I had no idea. So there's a lot of saints that we don't really know much about, and not because of ignorance, well, I guess kind of ignorance, but also there's so much stuff from the past to still think about and consider. But probably the most interesting saint for the Old Rite would be Avacum, Saint Avacum.
Never heard
and it depends. And what's that?
I've never heard of him.
He is the parallel to Patriarch Nican.
Okay.
Avacum was the whole reason the old believers were old believers. He is controversial, a saint and not a saint. He is painted on the wall in our parish, but there's no hymns or anything for him. And there's maybe one other icon and stuff, but he he was the one who opposed Nikken during the reforms and all that stuff. And he was the first to like be put to death and burned.
So he's a martyr for the faith.
And it's funny because like him and Nikken actually knew each other well. They went to seminary together. Mm-hmm. They went to school together. Outside of that, they knew each other.
Yeah.
You know. But he's probably the only one, if you're going to get into a saint, that you wouldn't really hear about in like the New Rite or anything like that. It would be Avicum right there. Oh. And he has a really interesting story. He does have an autobiography that he wrote before he died that you can get, and it's a very interesting read.
Yeah.
Saint Spiridon.
No, Father Spiridon Bailey. He's talking about.
Oh, okay. Antichrist speaking Irish by tape. That's very interesting. Dragon.
Yeah, we are big fans of Father Spiridon Bailey around here. The book he's referencing,
right,
Orthodoxy and the Kingdom of Satan. I don't know if you've ever read it, but we go back to it a lot because it's.
I actually haven't.
It's
it's relevant. One of the things you'll. Sorry, I was going to say one of the things you'll find with a lot of old ritualists is pretty much stick to the gospel. Yeah. Pretty much stick to the Bible and the teachings of the early fathers and stuff, and you don't really. I don't know how this goes too. It's funny because you have like Orthodox men, and men seem to get really into their theologies and all that stuff. And then you have women that are just kind of they like to read and stuff. Like I know like a lot of the ladies around church were big on like Father Stephen Damick's books and stuff and whatnot. But a lot of the men that you talk to, and even Vladika John will tell you this, he'll be like, have you read the whole gospel? Do you have it memorized? Have you read the Old Testament? Well, why don't you read that? Yeah. So you run into a lot of not really reading contemporary works and stuff like that. Like I didn't know who Father Thomas Hopko was until he passed away, and he wrote a bunch of books or whatever. Yeah. That priest from down around between here and Pittsburgh. He lived with the nuns.
Yep.
Hopko? Is that his name?
Thomas Hopko. Yeah, he was a great priest. I never read any of his books. I still haven't. Well, I think I might have read one, but he was the dean at St. Vlad's, and extremely traditional. Right. He also did a ton of podcasting when he retired to just kind of like get all this information out there. So, he was very instrumental in like vicariously teaching catechumens over the last few years of his life and even today. So, he's just a popular dude. But
I have spent some time reading some of Father Seraphim Rose's works and stuff. Like I read his book about creation, right?
Yeah,
about creation.
Genesis, creation, and early man. Yeah.
Yeah. I read that, and I read like Orthodoxy and the religion of the future, and then the one about the soul after death and stuff. Mm-hmm. But then like one of the things I've talked about with I see someone wrote Saint Avicum, burnt at the stake, a very great mistake. I like that rhyme. But also talking with Vladika John and Vladika Daniel about a lot of his works. There's a big, heavy Protestant overshadow in some of his writing and stuff like that, which isn't obvious at a first read and stuff until you go back and kind of reread some of the things, and you kind of think about it and let it soak in. You can tell that he had his background from his religion before Orthodoxy kind of seeping in there and stuff. Huh. So I've actually been told several times to not read his stuff, but to read it lightly and not take all of it so seriously all the time and stuff. Yeah. And then, of course, I read his life because he stopped in Erie and stayed overnight at Father Theodore's house. And he said Father Theodore was a very nice man in his book and stuff. So
nice.
I had to find that part.
Cool. Yeah, because that the one book by Father Spiridon that people were mentioning is kind of, he says it's a spiritual successor to Orthodoxy and the religion of the future. I don't know. You can watch my review on it later. I'm not going to bore you with the details, but it's just an interesting read. But there is kind of this idea of, I often say that Orthodoxy is not some sort of scholastic or intellectual pursuit, which you see a lot of these days. A lot of people like treating Orthodoxy like it's some sort of like master's program. So it's kind of refreshing to hear that there are more people out there that are just like trying to focus on the gospel and the services and not turn this into some sort of big brain competition.
And back to my whole spiel about internet orthodoxy, is it plays with a lot of people that are trying to do that. You know, this is so theoretical, so like blah 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 blah. And you know, and it's funny because almost every argument that someone wants to take an approach on, you can go right back to the gospel and say, well, that's a really nice thing, but you know, our Lord only ever gave us 2 commandments, and it was to love God with all of your heart and love your neighbor as yourself. Mm-hmm. And that's the bottom line right there. I don't care what book you read or what thesis or dissertation you put together.
Yeah, I mean, even going back to the church fathers, I mean, you could boil it down to, you know, the commandments of Christ. Love each other as I have loved you. There, go with that.
Yep.
You know? So,
and that is very true.
Let's see. I disagree. I consider the so-called Protestant parts of the Genesis book are apologetics. He actually explained in his book that the Orthodox approach is different from the Protestant. Okay.
I'll have to look in the book and see where he wrote that.
Yeah. But, I mean, you know, we're allowed to have opinions. You know.
Yes, we are. We'll look into that when I'm done here.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I read that book. But I'm not saying anything against Father Seraphim's writings. You know, if it inspires you spiritually, then it's profitable. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of people treat his works as like some sort of new gospel sometimes, where it's like, oh, these are the real truths about the times we're living in. And it's like, well, I mean, there's apocalyptic writings in every generation. He just happens to be the one that wrote them in ours, you know?
Yeah. I always like the apocalypse. I always have a friend I was talking with not too long ago, and you know, everyone likes to put you down for being religious and hokey and stuff. And he was like, so man, you really think that like some 7-headed dragon is going to come out of the river or the lake and demolish the world and all that stuff? And I looked at him and I was like, nah, probably not. And I'm like, but if it happens, you can't say you weren't warned.
Fair enough.
Right, you shouldn't be surprised if it does.
You don't need to do debates, really nightclub comedy acts, or expound on a library of 7,000 books. Yeah, exactly. That's why we like keeping things uneducated around these parts.
Yeah, it says uneducated in the thing.
Yeah, it says it right down there. I like to make sure people understand what they're getting into.
That's fancy stuff.
Right on. Well, my dude, we're coming into the close of the 3-hour mark here.
Yeah, I didn't think I was going to be able to make it that long. I was like, that's a long time.
Usually I've peed twice by now, so this is a record for me too. But it has been amazing talking to you about all this, and I am so sorry it's taken nearly a decade for us to actually get on video chat together.
You know, I was always very leery about video chatting and stuff.
Yeah.
Before the whole pandemic, because it was always such a weird thing.
Yeah.
Like someone would try to FaceTime me, I'm like, I ain't FaceTiming you.
Yeah.
I'm like, get out of here. I'm like, just text me or give me a call or something. But then with the pandemic, you know, most of my music teaching is now online. Mm-hmm. So, you know, I've got my monitor here, I've got my laptop here, I've got my microphone, my speakers and stuff, and over the last year, it's become very normal and comfortable now. You know, sometimes I hate seeing myself on camera because I need a better angle.
Yeah, I feel you on that one.
I need like that. I need like that shot, like
the down shot where you're like doing one of these, like, "Hey y'all, what's up? It's your boy."
You can't see my double chin or nothing, man. It's great.
Yeah. Hey, if you look from underneath, I look really powerful. I don't know. It's weird.
It looks better.
Right on.
And I would totally grow a beard, but I can't grow one.
Hey, listen, not all of us are blessed.
It comes in so spotty and stuff. It just looks like a mess. But, you know, I always like to make the joke anyway that most men just grow beards to hide their double chin.
Hey, listen, it's true. I mean, I have several reasons now, several good reasons for growing a beard, but that happens to be one of them, yeah. But,
oh, man. What's this
plot twist, the
here?
record is he's peed 3 times already. He just hasn't left his chair. Ronald Reagan style.
So,
Nice.
I don't know if you guys do this. I'm sure you guys do. But during an actual vigil, when they bring out the 5 loaves and bless them with the oil and all that stuff and everything, and then you go around and let everybody eat some and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's always a good one. This is a shot from behind the scenes in the side altar room where we prepare this stuff and everything. I still don't know what we do with that corn stuff that we put in that middle little cup right there.
Oh, the wheat?
Yeah, the wheat.
From what I understand, it
I
gets
take it
reused.
out of one container and then I dump it in another one.
Yeah, honestly, I think it gets used to either make koliva or it gets ground down to be baked into prosfora or and titeron or whatever.
Or whatever.
Yeah, you know, they do something with it. Maybe they bury it. I don't know. Oh, you got some good clip art there.
That's the headband for when you die.
Nice. We do love
that
death, don't we?
Put that on your head and then, boom, toss you in the ground.
Right on.
Gospel commentary, fonts. If anyone needs fonts, I got all kinds of fonts.
Right on.
I got Full Church Slavonic. I got Zamini Chant fonts. I got the whole thing.
Wow, that's. So do you help out with like the publications because like?
I don't really help out with the publications. I never really have, but I've helped out with a lot of different projects based around them and stuff like that. There's a whole bunch of. A lot of our stuff, you know, we translate our own books.
Yeah.
It was all translated by Liturgical John and Father Pittman and Father Theodore and stuff. And if anyone ever wants to donate to the Church of the Nativity Translation Fund, you know, just look on the internet and find that and make a donation. Because we're constantly trying to translate things. And that brings up a quick topic, actually, too, because a lot of people are surprised that our services are primarily in English. And that goes back to when we were restoring communion, you know, and as I stated before, everybody learns how to read Church Slavonic and pronunciate it and sing it and say it and stuff. But one of the things that Father Pittman thought was necessary was for people to actually understand all the parts of the service.
Yeah.
So we successfully, over the last 30 years, translated all of the services into English.
Yes.
There are Slavonic parts, definitely, parts that traditionally are just sung in Slavonic and stuff. And every once in a while, for shits and giggles, do it all in Slavonic. But usually just when Liturgical John wants to do that or something like that. But yes, a lot of things are in English. And a lot of it is translated from books that were actually brought from Russia by the people that founded the parish and stuff.
Nice.
So there is literally on the choir loft notebooks, spiral-bound notebooks from 1980, 1970, lined paper with Taparia and Talkian and all that stuff written out with the Zamini chant things and all that stuff.
Oh, wow.
And real quick, let me find this real fast. Just because a lot of people don't really realize what our church music actually looks like when we're singing it and stuff. Here we go. PDFs. Come on, Steve. You're more together than this. Oh, here we go. Father Pittman did a presentation on this and stuff. So here's what it looks like.
Oh, wow.
And this is all the notation. And these, the Kakroki, as they're called, all have different durations, different things. Like this one's a swift dove. This one's 2 men in a boat. That one's the hook right there. But this is what we're actually looking at when we're singing. And this does not dictate pitch. The pitch is set by the starter. when you come to a service, one person will start to sing by himself, and by the second or third syllable, the rest of the choir will join in at whatever pitch he sets it at right there.
That is insane. Like, rad.
So here's like the comparison for Ode 6 right there, the belly of the sea monster, because this is my favorite thing for Jonah.
Yeah, from Pascha, right on.
Yep. And you can see like how we did our best to translate these into notation. Mm-hmm. And you'll notice that the notation is based on the C, but just because that's the common key, you know what I mean? No sharps, no flats, and stuff like that. But it's not really, we're not really singing like that's a C note right there.
That's just whatever note you start at.
It's whatever note you actually start on, you know. So if you were a trained musician, you came into church and you looked at the left side and you're like, and then you looked at the right and you're like, ah. And then you went and started singing a C note, you're probably going to be off.
Right on. Now, is this something? Now these books are just produced for use at church. They're not available outside of the parish.
Well, I have them all on PDF.
Well, I know you do.
But yeah, we don't sell the church books and stuff.
Okay.
Here's one of the nice published books.
Oh wow, that's gorgeous. So people, if you're looking for tattoo ideas, there you go.
That's actually a letter. That's a P.
What? Rad.
And then it follows suit with this stuff right here. See, and you can see it's all photocopied and handwritten and stuff until you get into this. But with this project right here is an ongoing thing because I mean, like, you know, we're translating everything and anything we can translate. Yeah. I know Father Primmon's been working on like the flowery triodian or whatever, and we've done the Festal Manean. The Festal Manean spans like this many like spiral bound notebooks from Kmart. So it's very, very interesting to get all this stuff. And then like see right here, to thee our God. Now this is where sometimes singing in church gets crazy because it's like God.
You know, that it's very reminiscent of like old Ambrosian or Gregorian chant. You know, where it's very kind of plain in a good way.
It is very much based on it, and the idea behind examining chant, which is what I'm saying, like this is much different than like what the guys from Balaam are singing. They're not singing according to these Krokoki. They're singing according to like notation and stuff like that and everything. And the reason that it doesn't designate pitch is because it's supposed to be simple. It's supposed to be everybody and anybody can sing it. Mm-hmm. You know, you can sing it, I can sing it. The guy down there, he can sing it too. Yeah. You know, it's not like you gotta be like these scholarly people to do this and stuff. But that was something interesting. What's this? How's this gonna play? Can you hear that at all?
Yeah.
That's what church sounds like a lot right there.
Yeah.
Which also brings into mind another thing movement and singing. Everyone sings the same pitch. There's no harmonizing and stuff like that. And one of those things in the old believer context of thinking is that you come together as the body of Christ, and everybody sings with one voice. So there's no harmonizing because we're producing one voice.
That makes perfect sense.
And as a musician, I can tell you, when you listen to an A note on your guitar, like A440, A440 contains every other audible tone within the spectrum of tonality that you can actually hear. C sharp is in there, D flat is in there, they're all there. So even though we're not harmonizing and you're coming together as one voice, you're still covering the whole spectrum of tonality as we come together. And the other thing is movement too, such as like bows and prostrations. They're all at the exact same time. Yeah. I've been to other parishes where I just see people kind of randomly making the sign of the cross. So that's kind of randomly bowing, but like everybody knows exactly when you bow, exactly when you prostrate, exactly when this happens.
Like real structure.
And everybody really tries to move as one entity, one person, one body of Christ, So a lot of the stuff that goes on with the singing and the movements in churches to bring you in together and really try your best to create one entity. Come together as one person in one moment in time, Yeah. And it's pretty interesting because for being somewhat concerned of as a peasant form of Orthodoxy, it's got some beautifully deep theology behind it and stuff, So
that actually brings to mind, and this varies throughout the New Rite, from one parish to another, but congregational singing. Now you got the choirs doing their thing. Is it? I'm not going to say is it common or not, but is it allowed for people that are just in the congregation to chant along?
They want you to.
Oh, excellent! That's rad.
Yes.
So the choir is there to lead the congregation, not stand in for them.
Yeah, no. Like when you come in for Pascha, everybody can grab a book. Where's that? Oh, it's downstairs on my thing. But you grab the book; it's got everything in it from beginning to end. It's all there. Everybody wants you to sing.
Right.
Because like, and anyone who wants to learn to sing, there's singing. There's choir class.
Yeah.
Not choir practice, but choir class. You know what I mean? Where you can come in and not be on the choir and learn all the stuff you want to learn and everything. 100%. They'll teach it to you, and you don't have to join the choir. Like here's the first page out of the book right here where we talk about the actual tones. That's cool. That's the scale right there. And it's very interesting. The low range, the regular range right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's your 7 natural tone scale and everything. Sol, fa, mi, re, ut, and then low ut, high la. But and you can actually on YouTube find the classes. Father Pittman has them on there.
Oh wow!
You can find them from like 15 years ago. Some guy filmed them, and then recently he's been doing them again on the live stream cameras, in the church proper. So they're kind of more up to date and a little more covering what he wanted to cover. But you can find them on the church's YouTube page and stuff for sure.
All right.
And they're very fascinating and stuff. But he'll get into all the notation and everything on there, and really hook it up.
There you go, folks. So if you're into the I'm salivating over this stuff because I didn't know half of this stuff existed. So I'm gonna be up all night with this. This is great.
Right. There's a large wormhole you can go down, and I know for a fact there's some PDFs on the website you can download.
Oh, okay.
And it's the church music.
Yeah.
You can download some of the church music because since they've been doing the live streams and stuff, they wanted to give you the material, so you can actually download some of the PDFs from the website.
Oh, cool.
I'm not sure how vast the stuff that's up there, and if it's up forever, or if it comes down and rotates or whatever. But you can definitely get on there and find some cool stuff.
Any food is good food.
Yeah,
right on.
Sure.
Let's see, where are we at here? All right, we have crossed the 3-hour mark. My bladder is about to explode.
See, this is why I went to the bathroom at the beginning of it, man.
Well, I did, but I also drank 32 ounces of water. Now, mind you, usually during these live streams, I go through like a 6-pack of beer or something like that. There you go. But
I can't even think about beer.
Yeah, no.
I had a friend come into town last night, and another friend's birthday, and what was supposed to be just a nice quiet evening turned into a rather long evening. And
yeah, that's usually how it goes.
Steve can't even think about a beer today.
Yeah,
I gotta go to confession.
I've not really been drinking all that much lately. Just a little bit here and there. I had a bad experience about a month or so ago where I was like, you know what? Maybe it's time to just back away for a bit.
Right.
So
maybe we all need to do every once in a while.
Yeah, you know. But anyway, well, folks, let's see. That is just what Raphael needs, a new rabbit hole. Please. I need all the rabbit holes. I need all the books, all the rabbit holes, and just all the things. I need all of everything.
Here's everything you want right here.
Oh, my goodness.
All the festal canons and hymns in the Book of Magnification. There it is, the universal exaltation of the cross.
Oh. I'm having a nerdgasm right now.
I'll have to share that folder with you.
Yeah, I will not say no to that.
I didn't think so.
Rad. I just realized this whole time my little thumbnail up here of myself has just been so tiny. I wonder if I can change, like, is that something you can expand?
I'm probably.
I don't think it's letting me.
Screen.
Oh, I can add effects. I could do one of these.
And what is this we're using? Facebook? Is this Facebook?
Yeah, this is Facebook. Now I've just screwed everything up. Oh, there we go. Clear effect. Yeah, no, it doesn't look like I can really blow it up, unfortunately. But I can change the lighting apparently, or my background.
There's that everything I was worried about.
Yeah, this is all this weird stuff. I don't know.
Oh, look at that!
Whoa, whoa!
Look at technology, people! Wow,
right?
See that? It's a lot better.
Oh, hey, look at you now! Look at you now!
But I'm going to go back to the other one just because I've been there.
There you go.
And we're about done, so it's kind of pointless to switch up my camera now.
Yeah, no, now we're just playing around. But
well, I hope
Johnson,
that everybody that tuned in found this informative.
Oh, I'm sure they did. And the replay.
John says, "Dude, we need that Google Drive."
I require that drive, Stephen. Oh man, this has been an absolute joy. I can't tell you how excited I was for this, and you have blown my expectations out of the water. And
well, thank you. I'm glad that 1 second. I was supposed to have a makeup guitar lesson right now.
Oh, okay. Well, let's.
No. It's okay. He just said, "Do you want to do it tomorrow or Sunday?" I told him I'm being famous on YouTube right now. I'll be at the Westerville Athletic Club later, signing autographs.
Right on. And for those of you that don't know, Stephen is also a fine purveyor of thrash and metal and punk and hardcore.
Thrash, metal, punk, and all things skateboarding.
Heck yeah.
He used to own a skateboard shop here for about 7 years and stuff.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, local scene. I got to get back into it, though. Get rid of this beer belly.
Yeah, don't I know it. I can't skate anymore. My right knee just doesn't have any cartilage left in it, so...
And whoever's interested in the whole music thing and stuff, something, because I see a lot of people on there, if you ever want to have me back on and just talk about church music and stuff, I would gladly put together a Google Drive thing that we could share with the crowd.
Right on.
And go over some of the stuff about the liturgics of the Old Rite. Because, like you were saying, a lot of the differences lie within the liturgics, and that's true, you know, and a lot of it is the singing and all that stuff and everything, you know. And with that recording, also, I've been meaning to do this, as I have collected tons of photos over the years. I've been trying to get that liturgy recording up on YouTube, like with a nice slideshow and stuff thing. Because you can watch the live streams, and I recommend that everyone does watch one of the live streams one time of liturgy or any of the services. And Lord knows there's church, like during Lent, there's church every single day. Like every single day. And even right now, with Bright Week just ending, there was church every single day during Bright Week. You know, anytime there's a feast day according to the old calendar, there's going to be the evening before. And Kevin Dolan wants to be part of that discussion too. Kevin, you will be. But you can always catch something going on or go back and watch the old ones. But I want to put together a nice slideshow with that recording, because sometimes just sitting there watching the service is cool, but not always that amazing. But having the slideshow that I have in mind, be a nice little slideshow along with church history and stuff. And I just want to put another plug on there that if it's not on the church YouTube channel, you can find Father Pim and his son John Simon on YouTube. And those historical videos from the 100-year anniversary are on there. So definitely worth a watch. They're not long. They're like 40, 45 minutes and stuff. But very, very interesting to hear the immigrant side of the parish and stuff, you know. So for sure. But yeah, I really had a blast being on here. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. Thank God. This is I'm I don't know. I'm speechless. I'm just very happy. I've known you since I was a catechumen. You've always been a great inspiration, because you know you were the
terrible failing things though, people.
It's how many years? How many years is it?
I don't know, like 7 or 8.
Something like that. It doesn't. In God's time, whatever. But no, like I'm gonna blow a little sunshine up your ass here and just say, like, coming into the church, you know, from being punk rock and being into all the crazy stuff I was, to see someone that is serious about their faith, but not, you know, not a stodgy kind of like, oh, nothing's fun anymore kind of person was really it's been really helpful and inspirational over the years. And so thank you for being a part of my life. And thank you so much for being on the show and entertaining these slack-jawed yokels that I call my friends. But anyway, so we are going to sign off, and I'm going to do it in the usual manner. Ladies and gentlemen, you have just watched the most uneducated educational program here on the internet. On behalf of Spooky Cat, her mom, and myself, please pray for me, because I suck. Don't forget to go to church, say your prayers, and remember God. God bless you all. This stream is done.